Okay, looks like we're live. Just going to give things a second to get up and running, make sure everything's okay before we get going. Wait for a few folks to get up in here. Okay, hey, what's up? All right, okay, we got a few folks in here. So, all right. Hey everyone, welcome to Radical Democracy. I'm your host, Kamala Rose, and we've got some breaking news here, so let's get right to it. All right. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Hit that like button below. If you're watching on your phone, just close out the chat, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications. And yeah, and share the stream out on social media. Thank you so much for being here, folks. Really appreciate. All right. Okay, so this is the article from CNN. Joe Biden has selected his vice president, and he has chosen Kamala Harris. So I have a lot of thoughts on this one. This one is it's just, I mean, we'll get to it. I'll run through the little announcement stuff, and then we'll get right to it. So please do me a favor, say what's up in the comments. Also, just leave your comments and leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know how you feel about this. If you are folks here planning to vote for Joe Biden? Are you? I'll tell you right now, I am not voting for Joe Biden. There was nobody except for Nina Turner that he could have possibly selected as his vice president to get me to vote for him. So nothing short of that would have. I mean, Bernie Sanders he could have picked, but that wasn't happening, and we already knew especially once he did the pandering step that he did during the debates of saying he's going to pick a woman, which is like, great. We have a woman running we had a woman running the CIA under Trump. We have this woman running the CIA and Trump, Gina Haspel, and she was named as one of the people responsible for torturing in Abu Ghraib. And so I don't, just saying pick a woman is a pandering move. And especially when they do this picking a black woman, it's, I at least get to speak on the blackness of it. I got pandered to and got played in identity politics in 2008 and 2012 with Barack Obama. I was a two-time Barack Obama voter. And that was something I would only realize my mistake later on in life when I finally got informed around 2016, circa 2016. So we got some comments here. X, what's up, X? Thanks for being here. X says this race is the Democrats is to lose. Yes, it is. And I mean, it's really kind of Trump's to lose. Like, let's be real. Like, Joe Biden is just disappeared into the ether and he doesn't even exist. But so it's really Donald Trump's to lose. Like, he could have, if he had been able to get the Republicans in Congress to move further to his position, at least that he claims to have in these recent executive orders, if that was really his position and you really wanted to see $400 a week in the unemployment and have those basic provisions, he could have pushed on that. And so he has all the power of the US government to just use at his whim right now to spend. He could have provided a universal basic income. He could have provided more than a $1,200 stimulus check. Like, he could have implemented the same programs that we see happening all over the world with, in the UK and Germany, and just basic idea of payroll, wage replacement, where the government steps in and says, listen, we'll replace 80, 90, whatever percent of the payrolls for every company, as long as you don't fire your employees. And then you prevent the whole, mass unemployment from happening, which then just throws the entire, everybody, a bunch of, tens of millions of Americans and American families into disarray in the middle of a global pandemic. And so these were all avoidable things that Trump I think could have still won this if he had just provided some basic help to working class people. But because he's just your basic standard Republican, and he's, this is what you're going to get. You just get tax cuts for the rich and attempts to roll back payroll taxes and do these, spending cuts, and that's their ideology, and they'll do it right off of a cliff. Like Noam Chomsky has said that the right wing in this country doesn't even resemble a political party anymore. They've gone so far off of the political spectrum. They're not even they're completely off of the political spectrum at this point. It's beyond anything that he's familiar with. So X says, I predict the race will be super close, controversial, and borderline illegitimate, if not fully illegitimate. Yeah. I won't. A super close race will not surprise me one bit. Like, that's how bad Joe Biden is of a candidate. Like, Joe Biden should be wrecking it right now. Like in polls, like he's up by a decent margin right now, but he should be absolutely crushing it right now. I mean, Donald Trump, look at what the state of our society is right now. This is not the kind of conditions he was running on. The economy has completely failed and faltered at this point. Joe Biden should be running away with this thing right now. And I am not going to be surprised if this race tightens up a lot in the next, this race will likely tighten up in the next few coming weeks. I think we're going to see a tightening of the race, and how tight it gets really is up to Donald Trump at this point, because he has all the power and control over his party enough to, he can threaten them, people that are running down ballot from him that need him to have a strong showing. He can pressure Mitch McConnell and the Republicans to do something and accept a compromise on this economic stimulus, because his executive orders do not appear to be, I don't think, it doesn't look like they're going to be put into law and actually be passed into public policy. And so as it looks right now, it doesn't look like it will be happening anytime soon. That's for sure. So another, a month without that federal pandemic unemployment compensation for people is going to be a mess. There's going to be, we're already 30% of Americans couldn't pay their housing payments for the past 4 months straight. And now you're talking about eviction moratoriums being lifted at the same time that people are running off of a fiscal cliff. And, the signs are all there for what's about to happen. And there's no sign of improvement there for the economy right now, where the coronavirus cases are spiking. And so we're talking about the greatest depression in US history. And so, I mean, you could run like donkey against Donald Trump right now, and I think they would win. I seriously, genuinely believe that. So Joe Biden, if he makes this even close, it will be a indictment of the Democratic Party, to say the least. So, oh my goodness. So Mark McKeever says Harris versus AOC primary 2024. Yeah, I don't honestly believe that the DNC is looking ahead to 2024 and who can compete with AOC, knowing that Biden is a one-term president. I don't know. The AOC's so young. I just don't. Would be nice, I suppose. But honestly, if I'm being all the way real, like a Nina Turner, I think is a much better option. Like she's in, she has the campaign experience at that level of running Bernie Sanders campaign as a co-chair, as the lead, the like chosen as the lead co-chair by all of the co-chairs of the Bernie Sanders campaign. I think that she has the I don't want to use like the oratory skills and the just the messaging and the policy, really the policy prescription that of Bernie Sanders, that I think is like that, just bringing that sort of FDR style, but in this new 2000 and this 21st century package of a strong black woman who's also a strong progressive, strong social democrat, susceptible to socialist ideals, definitely has like she definitely is not going to be doing any kind, she's not a pro-capitalist, that's for sure, and she definitely has strong anti-capitalist rhetoric. So I believe in a Nina Turner, honestly, would be my personal choice for 2024, would be, for us running from the left, is a Nina Turner. I just think that AOC, I don't know, 4 more years in Congress, she's already softened up, Nancy Pelosi's mama bear, and I just don't like that kind of, like, I don't want that soft rhetoric. We need somebody that's really willing to buck the establishment and the party, the powers of the Democratic Party. And so we'll see. Let me know what y'all think, who y'all are looking at for 2024, who you're hoping to see run and make a strong run. I honestly think that, sadly, Kamala Harris is the likely 2024 Democratic nominee. It's just the progressives. I don't think that we'll have a candidate like a Bernie Sanders that will be able to coalesce enough of the left. We'll see. I will be happily surprised, but I am definitely not holding my breath on that. So I do think that Kamala Harris is the likely nominee for 2024. Sadly, as sad as that is, I just think that that's what it was going to be. Whoever the vice president was going to be the 2024 nominee, or likely nominee, I should say. Nothing's guaranteed, and we can always, an AOC or a Nina Turner, I definitely think has the potential. I think AOC is just, that's a really, she's so young. She's so young. I love AOC, but I don't know. That would be amazing. It would be dope. I'm gonna get through some more comments here. X says, what would polling look like if Sanders was the nominee? I think that Sanders would be absolutely wreaking havoc right now. Like, we already know how great Sanders was doing, and now look at the polling on, like, Hill Harris X released a poll last week that was polled on Medicare, on the question of Medicare for all, and said, do you support or oppose providing Medicare to every citizen in the United States, every American citizen? And they 66% supported, not of just Democrats, of all people, of all Democrats, Republicans, independents. 66% supported, only 33% opposed. There was 87% approval in the Democratic Party. And so you just have overwhelming support for this policy. And so you have at the time in the middle of a pandemic, everybody's saying, you got the New York Times coming out with these articles that are like endorsing all of Bernie Sanders policies, but without actually endorsing Bernie Sanders or saying his name. Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, a few months back, released an article called, like, Reality has just endorsed Bernie Sanders in the New York Times, I believe. And it was just like, based on just the people's reality, what they're seeing, it's so obvious. They already agreed with us on all the policies, but when you finally recognize it as, okay, well, that's the Bernie plan right there, and recognizing that, I think it's obvious that he's an actual left-wing populist in a time that is where people are yearning for a populist movement, and we are facing these existential threats of climate crisis and nuclear war. To be honest, like, let's not even nuclear war, but just nuclear disaster, right? Like, even if it's not nuclear war, like, we're sitting on a bunch of nuclear weapons, and through, due to nuclear proliferation, we have just these massive untold stockpiles of nuclear weapons here in the US alone. And if anything, in just nuclear reactors, when, how long till the next Chernobyl? These things are just bound to happen. And there's that measure, the doomsday clock, that they, that group of like physicists and all these scientists, they have this, they do this, like, how many minutes to midnight are we? And like, they've been moving closer and closer. We've been moving closer and closer to midnight. And so it's like, what is it going to take for people to, I don't know what else we would need to recognize that Bernie Sanders' policies and his platform are absolutely winning popularly right now. And this is, people will say like, oh, well, Joe Biden, beat Bernie Sanders, and look at, if Bernie Sanders' policies were popular, then why did Joe Biden win the nomination? And why is Kamala Harris, another neoliberal, another proud, staunch capitalist, and Kamala Harris, why do we have an attorney general as the vice president in the middle of a Black Lives Matter movement? And so, but the reality is that when the election was happening, they were polling at each time they polled, they did exit polling, and they polled whenever people went to vote, they polled, and they polled on the question of, do you support Medicare for all? And in literally every single state, it had popular support, in every single state. And in most states that they polled it in, it had overwhelming support. And so, particularly in the Democratic Party. And so people, even in South Carolina, it had majority support in South Carolina. Medicare for all did. And even though Joe Biden won South Carolina, and South Carolina was everything. I mean, that was it. It was South Carolina because Jim Clyburn, and then of course Super Tuesday with the coalescing of Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar dropping out and coalescing behind Joe Biden. And then, that they, like Jamal Bowman said in a recent stream that he did with Bernie, like, this is like, it's like the establishment had to gang up, they had to jump Bernie at the last second. And if they didn't jump Bernie, Bernie would have won. And there's a great, I have a video that I did. It's Richard Wolff gives his perspective on the Bernie 2020 campaign. And I just think it's a great perspective. I mean, I don't want to like toot my own horn there, but maybe I can pull it up at some point, but it's just great perspective on what his campaign meant, because there was success within his campaign, and how we should look at it from the left. And so I definitely feel like Sanders would be up easily by double digits, and he would maintain a double digit lead going all the way through to November. I think it would have been a landslide victory. I think Joe Biden sadly has a chance for a landslide victory here, because Trump's doing so terrible, but so anybody could have won. I honestly believe that at this, if Joe Biden can win, then anybody could have won. And so, because let's just remember where Joe Biden was before South Carolina. Like, everybody thought that dude was dead, like literally and figuratively, but like the dude was like, nobody, he hadn't come in, better than like fourth place in any of the primaries up till South Carolina. He had never won a primary in his entire, he had never won a single primary in his entire career running for president. He had never won a single primary election in a single state. And so this is just the only thing that he did was win South Carolina. That was it. And it was enough for the establishment to say, okay, this is our only hope. This was our last hope, because Nobody else is taking it. Nobody else was going to get that support right there, because it looked like Amy and Pete had no support within the Black community. Like Kamala Harris had no support from the Black community. She just got outrightly rejected, and Kamala Harris had to drop out, in fact, of her race before she got put on the California ballot. If you look back at the timeline, Kamala Harris dropped out of the race before Iowa, but it was also right before just days before she would have had to be forced to remain on the California ballot. And she, at that point, was polling less than Andrew Yang in some polls. And so she was about to get whooped in her own state by not just by the Democratic frontrunners Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, but also by like Biden and Yang, and like Tom Steyer was starting to poll. Like I think that Steyer was like polling near her or ahead of her at one point in her own state. So that's what we got to deal with. So we haven't even really gotten into so Mina Lee says, hi Kamali, how are you? I'm doing well, Mina Lee, thank you so much. How are you? How is everyone doing? Just want to check in, actually. Let me know in the comments how are y'all doing. Just whenever we get some news, it's always good to check in, see how folks are holding up. How are y'all holding up? How's the mental health? X says, I'm hoping Trump's USPS shenanigans will backfire like the dispatching paramilitaries to cities did. Yeah, I hope so. But honestly, they seem to be effective right now. Like the what he's doing at the USPS, it's working. He has allowed his far right wing, donor Louis DeJoy to consolidate power within the post office, to move around a bunch of lifelong folks that in Louis DeJoy is the current postmaster general appointed by Trump, who was a major donor to Trump's campaign. And their whole goal is it's a 2 to 3 prong goal, really. It's 2 prongs in the sense of, one is delay the mail-in vote. So they would like to delay the next vote, so that, because it's just a voter suppression tactic. And as a Republican who the name escapes me right now, once admitted on publicly, the less people that vote, the better it is for the Republican Party, the better their chances to win. So they know that, and the more right wing you are, the less voting you want to have happen. So you want the power in fewer people's hands. That's what you need. And so you don't want a lot of people voting. And that happens even in Democratic elections, like in the case of Charles Booker versus Amy McGrath. I think Amy McGrath was honestly happy to let voter suppression happen there. They closed down, like that was in Kentucky, and they closed down like in Louisville, they closed down like 95+% of the polling locations. In a city, there was like 1 or 2 polling locations for like hundreds of thousands of people were going to have to go to, I believe it was 1 or 2 polling locations in all of like Louisville, which is like them putting 1 polling location in all of like Boston, where I live, which is that's absurd. Like we have polling locations like in every little town. You have a polling location, much less like having 1 in a massive major city in the middle of a pandemic, when you're talking about trying to keep people separated, socially distant, sheltering in place. And this is what they want to do. So their goal with the USPS is to delay the mail-in vote, which has another layer of it, where by delaying the vote, you'll also weaken the public belief in that, and public opinion on it will shift to being more negative, because people will say, oh, look at that, the mail-in vote, it failed, because Trump's already working up and saying, oh, it's fraud, and the mail-in vote's fraud, even though he voted in 2020 with absentee ballot, and he's very often voted with an absentee ballot. So he's done mail-in voting, but then turns around and says, oh, mail-in voting is fraud. And so they would like to do that. And then also to privatize. They by weakening it, then the second prong of it, their approach is to then privatize it. They'll step in and they'll say, oh, look at the USPS doesn't work well. What do you have to do? You have to come in and you have to privatize it, and that's what their goal will be. So Meanly says, I think that AOC will still be too young to run in 2024, which I agree with. I think that she's just too young. She's going to literally be like just old enough to be running. And I just don't think that she'll want to lose her, step out of her seat in Congress at that point. Like she holds a seat in Congress. It's an important seat. I don't know why she would give that up at that stage. She has a lot of power and sway already. I don't see that at her age, her needing to jump out there that early. And I just think that there are people that would carry the message better across the board, like a Nina Turner. And so Mark McKeever says AOC would qualify for 2024. Yep. And her maturity might outweigh her age, but I do support Nina Turner as a candidate. I feel that the DNC is looking beyond 2020 with today's VP pick. Yep, absolutely. I agree. I think that that's what their goal is with the Kamala Harris VP pick for sure. Thanks to everyone for being here, by the way. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the show. Hit that like button below. Hit the bell to receive notifications anytime we go live or launch a new video. And if you can afford it, do me a favor and send me a donation on Patreon. It's patreon.com/radical democracy. I appreciate it so much. And let's continue forward. All right. X says that Nina is a champion. Yes, she absolutely is. I love Sister Nina Turner. She is amazing. She is just that's Black leadership right there. That is somebody that speaks for me. Whatever she says, she speaks for me. And so, yeah, Nina is absolutely a champion. And I really believe that she could be our best hope for 2024 on the left, honestly, in the US. And so X says, watch interview with head of Postal Workers Union yesterday on the Majority Report. Said the changes DeJoy is making won't hamper the success of mail-in voting. That remains to be seen. Yeah. I some of the people that he fired were some of the people that were overseeing the mail-in vote. But I mean, obviously, some people should be put in to replace them, but we don't really know that that's going to happen. But I think that that's their goal. And I think in some slight ways, like I see how it's a major operation that will be hard to deal a ton of damage to because it's more decentralized than that. But the moves that DeJoy was making were to centralize power around himself. And analysts have, weighed in on that and said that that was what those moves amount to. And so I just think that even if those moves don't do it, he still put himself in a position to still deal damage to the mail-in vote. And so I would definitely be cautious, at least very cautious. I'm not going to like say it's going to be like invalid. I think that it's more about doing things like, I mean, he did things like made it so that employees couldn't use overtime and like put in policies that employees weren't allowed to take overtime. And you're in the middle of a time when like, if you don't have more hiring happening, then all the increased, workload through the mail right now, because everybody's doing everything through remote means and people have to use the mail in delivery services a lot more than ever before now. And so I think that that's just, they said that mail was being, people were being instructed to leave mail on the floor, the floor of these like, facilities, like packaging facilities. And when they're, even if they're willing to work overtime, they're not being allowed to work that overtime. And so like things like that, I think will have an impact, even if it's some slight impact, is enough to then further sway public opinion. Which I think is their real motive behind it, because I don't know if they'll do enough damage to say sway an election. I mean, if it's a really close election, a few votes here and there, yeah, that can matter. And I just think it's a voter suppression tactic at all costs. And then also just opens up more stuff for them to challenge things like how the mail is sent, because like they were doing challenges in like New York and stuff where like if you didn't lick the ballot, the envelope closed, but you use tape, like that got rejected. And like it's like some people might not feel comfortable like licking an envelope right now in the middle of a pandemic, but you know, who am I to say? I haven't seen that interview though, so that sounds interesting, and that's something that I would like to check out, because I haven't seen that interview, and I would like to hear from the head of the Postal Workers Union. I'm always like, you know, I like unions as a first step forward, and I support unions wherever they are, but I do think that we need to go beyond, or just have more democratic unions. If we can have unions that operate democratically, then great, but most unions are corruptible because they have a hierarchical top-down structure that is like, you know, any hierarchical structure, just corruptible. And so I am always a little wary of unions as well. I just try to listen more to like what are the general like sampling of like the workers themselves saying, and try to get but that's hard for us to get, and a lot of reporters don't report on things like that for us, so it is hard to get a read of that. So something like a workers union can at least give you some sort of finger on the pulse kind of thing. So X says the interview actually gave me some hope. Recommend watching it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out, because I need hope. One, for the USPS. I wanted to. And if folks don't know, I mean, the USPS is like the most efficient public service and public institution that we have. Like they operate 100% on the cost of, you know, flat rate postage. And so like affordable flat rate postage, and they run entirely off of that. And the only reason that they struggle in any way and are in danger of being privatized is because they have been forced by Congress to, in, you know, right-wing lobbying in Congress to create a law that made it so that the USPS was the only institution in the entire US that is required to fund its pensions 70 years, all of its employee pensions 70 years in advance, and hold those funds like in escrow and stuff. And so they are just at a major disadvantage to any private corporation that's trying to deliver mail, as well as just like any public or private corporation or private institution or public institution anywhere. Like no one has to do that. I think it's good. We should require more people to fund their employee pensions further out, and actually just require employee pensions, period. How about that? But like, it's messed up that the USPS has this one BS law hanging over it. You know, why just them? Why just that institution? That's absurd. Mark McKeever says there's a theory now that Pence will step down and Nikki Haley will run on the ticket. I don't think that matters. Like, it's so late. Like, I don't think that any of that's going to matter. It's so late in the game. I mean, we're in, you know, we're, you know, middle of August here. We got September, October, and then November. So we're talking 3 months left here, less than 3 months now of campaigning. That's late to try to make a switch. And I just, what does that do? Like, do we really think like that Trump's vice president matters at all? Really? Like, Trump is everything on that ticket and will overshadow anyone else that's on a ticket with him. And so I just don't see who he picks as his VP moving the needle, moving the dial in any way whatsoever. And so that's not going to rile up his base anymore. Nikki Haley, I don't think that there's a bunch of Nikki Haley like stands out there or anything like that. Like, I think that I don't think that will have much of an impact if he does do it. I just don't think that, it's going to go anywhere. So we'll see. He shook up his campaign staff recently, and so maybe he'll make some interesting campaign moves. But I do expect some stuff from him down the line, more so like things like what he did with the caravan coming up from Central America last time. Like, I expect him to rile up his base in that way, like use some sort of demagoguery to rile up his base, point to some other China or, some Central American or Latin American immigrants or refugees. Somehow he'll figure out a way to rile up folks, and if there's any sort of story that he can grab onto, he will, and there will be stories that he'll be able to grab onto that way and spin them. And so we'll see. And Joe Biden's just like nowhere to be found. He's just disappeared into the ether. And like Kamala Harris, like, she was terrible. She was a terrible campaigner. look at what she did so poorly. She doesn't bring anything to the ticket other than obedience. That's all that this is about, is loyalty. Just like, they all talked about Trump being like, oh, Trump couldn't shoot people on Fifth Avenue, and his followers wouldn't change their mind, like labeling them as like some sycophants, and like, oh, they're delusional, they're delirious. They would let, but then you have articles coming out, and like, I forget where it was, lady wrote that, Joe Biden could boil babies and eat them and I would still vote for him. And like, I don't care. Like, that is like some like, that's not a complete joke to her. Like, that's clearly not a complete joke. Like, there's just about nothing that he could do to stop these people from voting for him, because for a lot of people, they're just so afraid of Trump. Like, at this point, it's like they have made Trump into they have caricatured him so well and just like made him out to be the problem, when really he's just a part of the problem, a symptom of the problem. Really, I really do believe that he is not a cause of the problem. The problem is capitalism. The problem is the damn system. If we change the people out every 4 years, we change these people out every 4 years, but it's changing from one capitalist to the next, we're going to get mostly the same policies. Where Trump and Biden differ, in my opinion, is in rhetoric, right? Like, Trump wants to, he supports the foreign wars, he supports our wars, and in fact, he's to the left of Biden on war, to be perfectly honest. Donald Trump is to the left of Biden. Donald Trump at least had rhetoric. At least his rhetoric is to the left of Biden. Rhetorically, he was against the Iraq war. Joe Biden had full-throated support for the Iraq war and Afghanistan war. And Trump at least reflexively says that he's against these things, even though he turns around and his policies all maintain our forever wars. And they're no different at a policy level. Like, policy-wise, they're practically the same thing, Trump versus Biden, in my opinion. But it's all right. X says he's got to run. Take care. Thank you so much, Shaka. Thank you so much, X. Take care, and I'll hope to catch you soon. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. All right. So yeah, like Trump and Biden, there's just not that much distance between them. I think that policy wise, you're going to get much of the same policy wise. Like, what would Biden have done any differently than Trump over the course of this? If this was the Senate and if this was the Congress that we had, which it's going to be likely just about the same based on the folks that are running and are up for re-election and such, it's where, Republicans are most likely going to hold on to the majority, and you'll have a split Congress. And so, what do we think policy-wise would be any different about Joe Biden versus Donald Trump? I can tell you what would be slightly different rhetorically. Like, Donald Trump is an overt racist. Joe Biden is a covert racist. Like, you pick your poison. But Martin Luther King, and I'll pull up the quote if I have to, here. I should pull it up. And I've done this before, but it's like, I'd rather have, they talk about the devil I know versus the devil I don't. Like, or the fact that, like, Martin Luther King in his letter from a Birmingham jail said that he's more concerned with the white moderate, and so here, let's pull up. Yeah, no, I won't do that right now, but yeah, he, in Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail, he says that essentially is, with deep regret that he has to, say that he feels like the Negro's greatest stumbling block is not the white citizen, white citizen counselor or Ku Klux Klan member, but the white moderate who believes in a negative peace, which is an absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is a presence of justice. And they constantly paternalistically say to the Negro that, like, I believe in your goals, but not in your methods of direct action, and always want you to live by their timetable. And so this is a synopsis, I'm synopsizing here, and this isn't exact summarizing here. It's not exact, but that's basically the gist of what he says there. And so That's what we have to watch out for. And so I just think that you're going to get with the Joe Biden, it's going to be a lot of the same. What we're going to get is whoever if he wins, which he's likely to win at this stage, I think. If you feel otherwise, let me know in the comments. If anyone thinks that Trump is likely to win at this stage, let me know if you think that. I still think that he could win. I just don't think he's likely to win. I think that that's a stretch right there. So let me take a quick drink because I'm thirsty, y'all. Oh, where is... Hey, what? Okay, here we go. Sorry. All right, so I wanted to just show a few things about what's sort of going on in the ether now that Kamala Harris has been selected by Biden. So as you see, CNN, they say Joe Biden has named Kamala Harris as his running mate, making the California senator the first Black and South Asian American woman to run on a major political party's presidential ticket. I've decided that Kamala Harris is the best person to help me take this fight to Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and then to lead this nation starting in January 2021, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee wrote in an email Tuesday. The two are set to appear together for the first time for a speech Wednesday in Wilmington, Delaware. Biden's campaign has not yet said what time that speech will take place. In selecting Harris, Biden adds to the Democratic ticket a former primary rival who centered her own presidential bid on her readiness to take on Donald Trump. Yeah, by trying to get him banned off Twitter. That's how she plans to take on Donald Trump. Like, not in any substantive way, but sure, she'll try to get him kicked off of Twitter. That was literally her big debate ploy and tactic that she took. That's the tact that she took against Donald Trump. That was her resistance to Donald Trump was, oh, please, Jack Dorsey, ban Donald Trump from Twitter. That's resistance right there. That's their idea of resistance. When he, vote for his military budget. Oh, she's all about that. She, gladly, she never once voted against, she never saw a Trump military budget she didn't like. In fact, she, along with Elizabeth Warren, decided to give Trump more money than he even asked for one year for that military budget. Why? Because that's how just corrupt this system is that even those people that we look at and some people consider to be progressive, and some people thought seriously thought that Elizabeth Warren was progressive, and maybe some does anyone believe that at this stage? And look at what we'll get into Elizabeth Warren. I love that she was trending. Let me get through a little more of this. So she rose to national prominence within the Democratic Party by interrogating Trump nominees during Senate hearings, from former Attorney General Jeff Sessions to Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And what was the end result of all of those questionings? Nothing, right? Nothing substantive here. You see, nothing substantive. They can't point to anything substantive because she has no substantive things that she's fought for that matter to people right now. And so that's not what this selection is about. Let's be real. All right, so Harris's selection comes months after Biden committed to picking a woman to join him on the Democratic ticket. Harris, 55, is now the third woman to serve as a vice presidential candidate for a major political party, following Geraldine Ferraro as the Democratic vice presidential pick in 1984 and Sarah Palin as the Republican vice presidential pick in 2008. So there was an article that came out recently that just tripped me up, and I was just like, this just trips me up. So this is the kind of rhetoric that was going on before Kamala Harris was the selection. So they had The Hill. This was posted in The Hill on August 10th, and it was Sean Diddy Combs, Charlemagne the God, others urge Biden to pick Black female VP. And they say here, Charlemagne the God, Sean Diddy Combs, and dozens of other Black public figures called on former Vice President Joe Biden to name a Black woman as his running mate in a letter Monday. The letter alludes to reports that Biden advisors have deemed Senator Kamala Harris. Oh, sorry. Let me pull this up on screen for y'all. Sorry about that. Let me get that up there for you. And thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone that's here. If you haven't already, do me a favor and please like this stream, subscribe, and share on social media, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can. I'd really appreciate it. Just get the word out there. Hopefully get more eyes on there and get the stream growing. We're actually last I checked, we were at 92 subscribers. So we're getting really close to 100 subscribers, which is really awesome because I've only really had the channel going for about 3 weeks now. I started the channel originally about 4 months ago, but then I only put up a few videos, and then Bernie dropped out of the race and just kind of got my mood in a really bad place. And so I kind of had to, I think the left was sort of recalibrating at that point, and I needed some time to recalibrate. And so I did that and just got right. And then it was really when Michael Brooks passed that just sort of pushed me to say, I got to get out there and start making this happen. And so ever since then, I've been doing these streams pretty regularly, and we're already approaching 100 subscribers. So please do me that favor and share this out, and, retweet or whatever you can to help push this out and hopefully get us, get some more subscribers, get some more folks in the community so we can make these chats more engaging and make these streams even more engaging. And I really appreciate that. So thank you all for your support, to everyone. I've seen a lot of folks doing that, and I've retweeted and try to, follow everyone that I can in the community. And so just want to try to platform as many folks as I can. And so I really do appreciate everyone that's reached out. Some folks have reached out and just like moved me to tears with what they've said. And so thank you to everyone. I actually should shout out, and I should have shouted out at the top of the stream. I've got 2 new patrons that I want to shout out. And so I should have shouted them out at the top of the stream. I'll make sure I shout them out at the end of the stream. But I got 2 new patrons. And I'm not sure if I can share, but we have 2 new patrons. So Kirk Golson, thank you so much for donating and for subscribing on Patreon. I really appreciate that. So shout out to Kirk Golson, and also huge shout out to Steve Alvarez as well, who also became a $10 subscriber. So that's really, that's just amazing. I can't thank you enough. That means so much to me. So I really appreciate that. And Kirk signed up for a $3 subscription. Thank you so much to Kirk for that. I really appreciate that. Those donations are truly going to help this program survive and to grow. And so I appreciate you so much and can't thank you enough for that. So oh yeah, and I really appreciate the heartfelt messages that folks have sent, and I can't put into words. It means so much. And so thank you so much. And let's keep going with this. So yeah, this was a letter here, and this letter sent by some Black entertainers. It seems like Black public figures, Black entertainers I'm seeing here, that said, the letter alludes to reports that Biden advisors have deemed Senator Kamala Harris overly ambitious and potentially disloyal to a Biden presidency. It also blasts reports that members of Biden's inner circle are holding a grudge over Harris, mentioning Biden's former opposition to desegregating busing in a debate last year. So they're saying that, they're blasting this report that people close to Biden were essentially just didn't like that Kamala Harris had called Biden out for his actual record of supporting desegregation. So, for being anti desegregation. So he was anti busing. He was a segregationist. Okay, sorry, I don't know why I said that so screwed up. So I apologize. So the world is screwed up right now. All right, let's be real here. Kamala Harris, we got a joke. We're facing global pandemic, economic catastrophe, the greatest depression in U.S. history. And what we got is Donald Trump and Mike Pence versus Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Like, I live in just somebody kick me in my face, all right, and let me wake up from this horrible nightmare that we're all in, because we're facing, climate crisis, nuclear catastrophe, just a global pandemic and an economic absolute ruin of the fall of the American empire. Let's be real. What Chris Hedges has rightly identified as we are in the crumbling of the American empire, and we're doing exactly what people in crumbling empires do. And it's so just not hilarious, but kind of hilarious, kind of interesting to watch, just like entertaining to watch, to see people that don't recognize it for what it is and can't see that we're in the midst of this crumbling empire. And so they are just like, going down with the sinking ship, like playing it out like the band on the Titanic. And it's like, we're just like capitalism, just as with the whole damn thing is just sinking and crashing. And so like, what is it going to take for people to realize that the system is just rotten to the core and we have to change something about the system? And what's the system? The system of capitalism is, in slavery, you had master slave. In feudalism, you had lord and serf. In capitalism, you have employer employee. There were markets in feudalism. There were markets in, you took stuff to the market. That's where you trade for wares and foods and pelts and all different kinds of trinkets. And so there were markets then. There were markets in slavery, right? There was a slave market. There was a cotton market. There were markets during slavery. So markets exist outside of capitalism. The capitalism isn't this, to say, oh, capitalism is markets or, that market ideology. Or no, it's not. That's not what capitalism is. Capitalism is defined by the employer-employee relationship. And so it's that we need to dismantle in the system. That's what's wrong with the system. Everybody says like, oh, systemic racism, systemic sexism, systemic, homophobia, systemic transphobia, like these systemic problems, or it's the system keeping us down. The system. Yeah, well, the system is called capitalism. That's the system. That's the economic system that we're under. So that's the system that we're all faced with. And so, and what do we got? We got a bunch of capitalists, 4 capitalists running against each other. And it just doesn't matter all that much what's gonna happen there. So let's check out some more. So real quick, I'll just get to this. So in this letter, they said the letter also criticizes Biden. So this is wild because it's like, was Joe Biden, so this is more from this letter, was Joe Biden ever labeled too ambitious because he ran for president 3 times? Should President Obama not have made him VP because he had to worry about his loyalty when he clearly had ambitions to be president himself? The letter asks, why does Senator Kamala Harris have to show remorse for questioning Biden's previous stance on integrated busing during a Democratic primary debate? So, like, all right, well, the letter also criticizes Biden's support in the 1980s and 1990s for tough on crime policies, such as mandatory minimum sentencing and harsher sentencing for offenses involving crack cocaine compared to powder, right? So we'll come back to that. So the letter criticizes Biden's support for tough on crime policies. You're criticizing Biden's support for tough on crime policies while also touting Kamala Harris, California's attorney general, who we'll see did things like lock up the parents of truant kids, locked up over 1,500 people for weed, and then laughed on Charlemagne the God, who is one of the people in this letter, laughed on his program, The Breakfast Club, talking about how she smoked weed in college after having, as attorney general in San Francisco, was locking up, hundreds of people, thousands of people, and then turn around and laugh about that shit, in while running for president. So, does that, she literally like kept people locked up and so in fought to keep people locked up longer in order to maintain a prison slave labor force. So this woman is out here. So these people are literally like, and I tweeted out about this, but it's like, these people are over here like pushing Kamala Harris, and they're talking about like failing to select a black woman in 2020 means you will lose the election. We don't want to choose between the lesser of two evils, and we don't want to vote for the devil we know versus the devil we don't, because we are tired of voting for devils, period, the letter states. Other signers of the letter include Nick Cannon, Hotep ass, Bishop William J. Barber, who's the only
good person they name it. Well, Ben Crump, so civil rights lawyer Ben Crump, but you know what kind of folk, you know what Ben Crump is about. But I can talk more about Ben Crump. He does decent work. He does solid work. He does good work, I'll say. But these are not William Barber. William Barber is unique there. He understands the class and racial dynamic at play. And so it's a little surprising to me for him to be on a letter like this, but he probably, I don't know if he necessary. I don't know. Because that's interesting. I don't see him as somebody that would be supporting a Kamala Harris. I'll have to look into that because that would just be a weird take from him. He's somebody that fights for like the Poor People's Campaign that is carrying on Martin Luther's legacy. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was going down to the South to fight for this Poor People's Campaign, and where we were supposed to be uniting people across this intersectional campaign of working class people in order to really push back against all these destructive forces of capitalism. And Martin Luther King was a democratic socialist, and he called himself that in a letter to his wife. So let's they just said failing to select a black woman in 2020 means you will lose the election. I disagree. With that right there, I just completely he could have, who was not going to vote for him? Well, one, it would have disappointed more white liberals than it would have just off-put black people. Like, more white liberals would have not voted for Biden if he didn't pick a black woman. It would have been more people, more like suburban white liberals that would have been like white guilt in their way to being like, oh, I can't support that. But black people, I mean, look at that. I mean, Biden's policies are horrible for them, but old black people who are the reliable voters, the more reliable voters, let's be real, young people, and I'm an elder millennial, but I'm 33. And so like, I'm just like right on the edge there, but I'll tell you, like, we as a voting bloc, we just don't show up enough, particularly younger voters, which I can say I wasn't a reliable voter when I was younger. So it's just something, especially in black and brown communities, civic engagement is it's not a thing. People are cynical about the political process because they've seen no matter who the hell is the president, whether it's Bill Clinton, 1994 crime bill, and what's that dude's name? Willie Horton, just that whole case with Willie Horton and just that whole tough on crime shit. Like, that's Bill Clinton. That's, the same Bill Clinton whose wife was the Secretary of State for Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. And these people it's all interconnected, and it's just going to be, we're just shuffling around the same shit that we had. And again, just reminder that people talk about return to normalcy with Joe Biden, but it's like, normalcy got us to this point that we're at right now, and so we also have to just take stock of that. So so to say that, like, we don't want to choose between the lesser of two evils, like, what are you talking about? You're already doing that. If you're voting for Joe Biden, you are choosing you've already chosen between the lesser of two evils. Okay, like, what world do you live in? Joe Biden is garbage, and the dude, you just said that, your letter criticized his support for the 80s and 90s. The dude still defends that stance to today. Like, he only recently came out in this election cycle and said that he was even like that he thought that maybe that, like, it wasn't totally a perfect policy, but he still stood by his stance and said at the time he believes that it was the right decision to make. Like, so just miss me with that garbage about, like, Joe Biden. The dude is like, he said the same shit just a few years, like 10 years back, he was saying the same shit about like Mexicans being drug dealers and bringing crime across the border. So it's just like, even in rhetoric, if you dig deep enough with Joe Biden, you find some garbage, just horrendous rhetoric of his. So to say, you don't want to choose between the lesser of two evils while you're simultaneously sitting around worrying about who Joe Biden picks as his vice president. Like, you think that whoever Joe Biden picks, look, what did Joe Biden do to impact Barack Obama, really? Like, who are you kidding? A vice president is like an ornamental role. There's no power behind the vice presidency other than you get to be the next president, likely. Okay, so yeah, or the next presidential nominee at least. And so, great. If that's what your goal is, and your goal is to just pass around one ghoul for another, and we'll just keep on passing around these different capitalist ghouls, and maybe will switch up their identity every once in a while to try to pander to some of you. And if we let that play us, like in this right here, this whole letter, this is all identity politics, weaponized identity politics. They're just playing identity politics, but it's going to be weaponized against the Black community. This kind of shit right here. But it's identity politics. It's race reductionist type shit where you lack an understanding of the intersectionality of the issue, and where specifically race intersects with class, and where and recognizing that, okay, and I shouldn't even get too mad here, because let's be real, right? Like Sean Diddy Combs and Charlemagne the God and Kamala Harris, yeah, they're all Black, but they're also all in the same class. Let's be real. These are people that are wealthy people. Sean Combs, that dude's wealthy beyond anything I'll ever imagine. Honestly, I won't even waste my time imagining that kind of stuff. Don't want it, to be honest. I've done something wrong if I amass that amount of wealth. I've done something wrong. I've exploited too many people, and I've done something wrong if I've amassed that amount of wealth. So I definitely don't want to be there. So no jealousy here. Don't begrudge them for it whatsoever. But this is the problem with these people, and this is what they do. And to respond to this, I'd like to just show a clip of Malcolm X that I think is very pertinent. I'll read a couple of quick comments here. Mark McKeever says, too many factors unique to 2020 makes this presidential election too hard to call. Anything can happen, including the debates and voter suppression. So yeah, exactly. I agree. I think that there's never, I think with the mail-in vote, and it's just the Congress and the Republicans in Congress and Trump could push something that actually gets something done, where there's an economic stimulus provided to the mass of people. They have the ability to just give away government money, which I believe in. I think they should be doing it. I think they should give it away through the form of a universal basic income, because it's already too late to do anything else. And that's the best system that we have. And honestly, I think it's a solid first step and just a basic step. I do worry about certain aspects of you can't just have a universal basic income. You also have to have things like, rent control and those sorts of things, or else that money will just trickle right into the hands of the landlords. And so we have to be careful about things like universal basic income, but that's what's needed at this moment. And we can at least offset a lot of the pain of people, working class people, by just providing a universal basic income here. So Carlos Jeffer says, it's past 1 o'clock over here in the UK and just heard the news before I got to bed. Don't know how I feel, or before I go to bed, don't know how I feel, but I immediately think back to that debate moment when Kamala called out Joe over busing. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like Kamala Harris did this, like, again, they just use their identity, and they're willing to, they will use their identity when it works for them politically, and they will turn around and they will sell out the same people that belong to that identity. So this is what we have to be so repulsed by, and just, this should infuriate everyone. Whenever we should hate being pandered to, and we should try our best to recognize it whenever it's happening. Recognize this stuff. Recognize when they're weaponizing identity politics against us, because it was identity politics was weaponized against us with Barack Obama. We voted against our class interests for Barack Obama. We voted for, we voted against our class interests because of, I did, and I know so many people who did, because it was the first Black president, and that felt so historic and it felt so meaningful. And so I can only imagine how it probably feels right now for a lot of women, and particularly liberal women, that are going to be feeling like, oh, well, it's the first woman president. Now, I guarantee you these women weren't so enthusiastic about Sarah Palin when Sarah Palin was running for president. I guarantee you these women weren't switching over to go support Sarah Palin. Why is that? So it sounds like they have a line where they draw, where they say, no, okay, support women, but maybe not those women. Okay, so there's a line that they draw there. And so the line is just, when you're a leftist, the line, it doesn't stop at Republican or Democrat for us, and it keeps shifting over to, what are your policies? And so I would love to have a woman president. I would love to have a Black woman president. I'd love to have a Black trans woman president, but they got to have the right policies, period, or else it just doesn't matter. I'd rather have an old white guy like Bernie Sanders that believes in, at least a social democratic, public policy, versus a queer Black woman who is a, you know, diehard capitalist or a cop like, you know, a Kamala Harris, a Val Demings, you know, who would have been I think a queer Black woman. I think I believe Val Demings is lesbian or bisexual, I believe. Sorry if I got that wrong, I apologize, but I believe I correct me if I'm wrong, please. Anyone in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong if you know. Otherwise, yeah, the Chicago mayor, Lori Lightfoot, you know, like these people you'll get these folks that are like, she's like cop. And I think, you know, I don't know what, you know, but I know that she's a queer Black woman that is, you know, but she will uphold these corporatists, just white supremacist policies, misogynist, white supremacist, transphobic, homophobic policies, while, you know, using their identity like a Pete Buttigieg. And so we just have to be wary of that and really have a strong reaction to those sorts of things and reject that. And I think that, honestly, I'm really proud of Black voters for rejecting Kamala Harris during the primaries. I think we did a damn good job with that. I think that I'm a little ashamed of what happened with Joe Biden and with older Black voters, but I get why they vote that way and why they've been scared over decades into feeling like they have to vote for the person that they think will be the safest candidate for white people. And so there's a lot of people that vote defensively for older Black voters. And so I get it. I just vehemently disagree with them and think that we need to start to use our vote strategically and start to recognize the power in our vote and stop giving it away to these Democrats. And we can't do it this election. There's no, like, they'll always use the threat of some Republican, some big scary Republican. Oh, Trump is so dangerous. He's a once in a lifetime threat. But let me tell you what we get next down the line from Trump. They're talking about Tucker Carlson. Dude, if Tucker Carlson becomes the next Republican nominee, he's worse than Trump. He believes everything that Trump believes in, but he's just smarter. If you're so wrapped up in just their rhetoric and you don't recognize the program as the real threat, and not like, the rhetoric matters, and it matters substantively for sure, but it's just not on the same level of, you know, it's because when Trump, he can rile up people and you know, you get like the El Paso shooting. I think that was probably something that was Trump does what they call stochastic terrorism, where you rile somebody up. You get people riled up with your rhetoric and through public speech, and you put this message out there knowing that it will reach somebody that will be on edge enough and have the right sort of, you know, pain and struggle and, you know, potentially mental health issues or anything like that, to be the kind of person that is quick to react, like what happened with that person that sent a bunch of bombs to a bunch of different, you know, none of the bombs went off, but he sent a bunch of bombs through the mail, and that was like, that was Trump doing stochastic terrorism. And I think that's what is happening. That can happen when you have really, really terrible rhetoric, but I don't know that there's no study done there to show me any numbers to say that that's any more dangerous than the subtle, or the hiding the ball that Joe Biden does, that then allows them to do things like lock kids in cages and drone bomb people without people like me paying attention, because they tricked me into not paying attention for a long time. And so yeah, so I do think back to that debate moment, but I think that was her using, just weaponizing identity politics and just using identity politics, but really having no substantive critique of Joe Biden. She has no real substantive critique, and we can get into some of her record and why she wouldn't have a substantive critique about Joe Biden. Carlos Jeffer says, I felt just how you felt, deflated over Bernie's race ending the way it did after such an amazing start. Yeah, was Bernie screwed by the establishment worse than he was back in 2016? Yeah, I mean, it took literally, they threw, and I love the Richard Wolff's take on this, and I have a video on it called like something like Richard Wolff Perspective puts Bernie 2020 campaign in perspective. And Richard Wolff, I think, just talked about how it took everything the establishment had, and I mean everything, for them to coalesce behind Joe Biden, and Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar dropping out with Barack Obama working behind the scenes to just, completely like coordinate that all of those moves behind the scenes to push Pete Buttigieg to drop out and to throw his support behind Joe Biden, because in making all those backroom deals that they do. And that's what really happened. And it took all of everything they had to stop this socialist, this democratic socialist, social democrat, we all know, but who ran as a socialist, called himself a socialist. And it took all that for them to stop that. And so that should be promising to us. That should still give us hope that, yes, it did, that he did get screwed over worse this time, I think. I mean, it was bad. Last time it was bad. They blacked him out. And we did good as the volunteer base and the movement to circumvent that this time. And we really did. We really did great. I think the organizing for the Bernie campaign was something phenomenal. And we did something really special in just being able to circumvent mainstream media and all of the sort of corporate media that was lined up against Bernie. But I think that it should give us hope that it took all of that to defeat us. And, maybe, just maybe we can rally back in 2024 and do better, with put forth an even stronger progressive candidate that won't back down from criticizing the establishment and the other candidates in the race, like Bernie did with Joe Biden, who he refused to draw the distinction between his record and Joe Biden's. And I think he really his campaign suffered for it. So Mark McKeever says 2020 primary was a balloon pop as opposed to 2016 where the balloon leaked slowly. Yeah. So this year's primary happened so quick and stunning. Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. Actually, I love that. I think that's a perfect framing of it, where it's like it just happened all at once. That was, what Kyle Kalinske called Bloody Monday, and I don't know if it ever got that official naming, unofficial naming, but it was like Bloody Monday when they just came in the establishment after South Carolina primary, and they just piled on. And by dropping out, there was nothing like that in history. Like, look it up, and there's just nothing like that in history. Two of the top, of the other top candidates dropping out the same day, right after the primary, before Super Tuesday, and endorsing the candidate who was previously and currently just the number 4 candidate or something, number 3 candidate, but he had just won South Carolina, was it, and had won his first primary after losing the first one, getting blown out in the first 3 primaries. And then he just suddenly comes in, and nobody wanted to. You'll notice, just look back at the news from the time, and nobody was pushing Joe Biden. Nobody wanted him, but they were stuck with him, and they were just like, okay, this is all we got, so we're getting behind him, and they did. And much to our chagrin, and just to the pain of the left and the left movement, really, they did it. They did the damn thing, and they, like Jamal Bowman said, they jumped Bernie at the last minute there. And so, yeah. Good framing there, Mark. Appreciate that. Carlos Jeffer says, I would agree, Mark. Therefore, I'm confused why there wasn't more focus on this. The Iowa primary where the mayor, Pete, somehow got so many votes. Some fuckery was definitely afoot. Oh, hell yeah. I watched that primary so closely. And it was, just the way they broke down and calculated the votes was so garbage. But then when you actually went through, somebody just went through the record of the vote, the public record of the vote. And they were like, no, look we can show a series of mistakes that all went against Bernie, and most of them in favor of Pete Buttigieg. And all in all, they totaled up to amounting to Bernie supposing to have more county delegate equivalents. There were county delegate equivalents versus delegate equivalents. And they have this whole convoluted way, because this is the bullshit. This is the bullshit. I say, count the fucking votes. Count the votes. One person, one vote. No playing games with electoral colleges or any of this bullshit. Let's get to as close to direct democracy as we possibly fucking can. But this is why we give away all of our, we don't participate in democracy in our daily lives. So when it comes time to participate in a democracy, we're totally cool with this bullshit facade of a democracy that we have. And so this is what we get stuck with. And it's this is why we need to have democracy in the workplace, so that people can practice democracy every day. And then they'll know that what's going on in our political system right now is not democracy. And nobody would be jaded and be sitting here thinking that was that was actual democracy. And that's why it's so absurd when America goes around the world dropping bombs on people, talking about they're spreading democracy, when they don't even provide democracy to their own citizens in the workplace, where the majority of adults spend the majority of their waking hours of their adult lives. And so, yeah, you can't say that you believe in democracy and but then say, no, people don't deserve democracy in the place where they spend the most of their time. Then you don't really believe in democracy. So, yeah, all right, let's keep pushing forward. Carlos Jeffer says, did they even count those votes from the satellite caucuses in the end? Yes, count those votes, all of them. I know they were like, so like, I think the whole, like, we got down to like South Carolina, and those some of those satellite votes still weren't properly counted. And so it was just a mess. And they said they refused to correct it, because even though they said what's official is whatever the person wrote down as the calculating the math, even if they got the math wrong. So the official election like board of Iowa said, like, even if the people calculated the math wrong, and we can look at the piece of paper that they calculated on, and we can count it, and we can add it up, and we can see that they did math wrong. Even if they did the math wrong, we have to leave the count as it was calculated, even if the math is wrong, which is absurd. So, okay, so what if somebody went in for a Bernie then and did the math wrong and accidentally said, oh, 10 minus 5 is 1 million votes for Bernie? Would you have to keep that? So do that thought experiment there. Like, would they have kept that? Does anyone think that they would have kept that and would have said, well, somebody did the math wrong, and so we have to accept that because somebody did the math wrong and it's on the piece of paper? Well, the math is clearly wrong, and that should be the exact reason that we have these paper, receipts on these caucuses. They're already a shit show as it is. They're already a mess. And even though they favored Bernie in 2016, I still think that they're a mess, and that they're anti-democratic. You can't be. It just reduces the number of people that get to participate in an election. So I do not agree with caucuses in any way. I think that we should be moving to, just a regular primary style election. Be no super delegates, but just primary style election. Stop with the bullshit. Oh, and Carlos Jeffer. And as for coin flipping, wow, yeah, like coin flips in 2016, 7 out of 7 went to Hillary Clinton. 7 out of 7 went against Bernie Sanders. And then in this one, it was like one after the other. There was these hilarious videos of people flipping coins, and one person would flip the coin, look at it, call it, and then they would just a dude just took the coin and started flipping and it's like playing with the coin right after. Nobody didn't let the other person come and like take a look and see to just like verify that it was actually what he called on his hand. It's just like, what are we doing? This can't be a real process. Like, that's not democracy. Coin flips shouldn't be a thing. Like, coin flips should not be happening in democracy. Let's never play that game. Let's never play that game. Mark McKeever says, give it up to Bernie, who got beat by the establishment and is still dealing with the 2016 lies. Sickening. Yeah. And like, shame on Bernie for giving up his endorsement to Joe Biden for nothing, what was clearly nothing. He got task force, like people assigned to task forces, which amounted to nothing. And so it's just, and I think that the left will be making a mistake if they get behind Biden in any way and get this sort of like idea in their mind that if they somehow get behind him now, that he's going to be able to be more likely to bend to their, will later. No, the only power you have right now is to just like withhold your vote. And all those people like AOC, who just came out right away and was like, I'm gonna vote for the Democratic nominee, no matter who they are. Like, that's the weakest stance you can take. Like, that immediately gives up all power that you have. That's the last little power you have, is your vote, and withholding your vote from these people. And that could have at least scared them into, I think, Kyle Kalinski's suggestion of having Biden agree to do a series of executive orders, like legalizing cannabis. Like, those sorts of things would have been substantive agreements that Bernie could have come to with Joe Biden in order to give up his endorsement, but he just gave it up too easily. And that's why I think a lot of Bernie's backers don't just shift over with him. I think there's a large set of us that are just like, we're not playing this game again, and we're not going to be scared into voting for Biden. And so whether I was in a swing district, swing state or not, I would be voting for either Howie Hawkins or Jeff Mackler. I plan to do a segment on Jeff Mackler soon. That's the candidate running under the Socialist Party who most closely like shares my values. And so I'm not going to let them hold my vote hostage anymore. I dem exited a long time ago, and I'm not going to let them hold me hostage anymore. And so hopefully they'll eventually learn that we're not just like, we don't just, they're going to have to meet us where we are and propose policies that make us want to support them, not the other way around. We don't just owe them our vote. They owe us our better policies. Carlos Jeffer says the machine is strong. To get where Bernie got to with all his detractors gives me hope for the future. Got to keep chipping away at the establishment and never give up. Cori Bush is proof of this. Absolutely. That's why I still get excited about wins like Cori Bush's, and just I love this Marquita Bradshaw that just won the Senate primary in Tennessee. That was beautiful. $8,400 against somebody with $2.1 million, outspent 250 to 1. And she comes and just does the unthinkable and wins a Senate race. That's mine. But you have to win across a whole state with $8,400. Like, that's nothing. Like, that's wild. That's wild. So shout out to folks like Marquita Bradshaw and Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. And I think that those wins will matter and, go a long way. But I do think that it's like Cooperation Jackson and places like that are building democratic workplaces that are going to be the ones making the real change in society, that we're going to see make some substantive change. Because I truly fear that maybe our political system is too far gone at this point, and that the left can't actually win through electoral politics. I worry. I just, AOC, we'll see how these people hold up. Time will tell how these people hold up. I hold out hope still, and I really do. I'm very hopeful that we can usher in, as long as we move quickly enough and we get enough people replacing these ghouls in Congress and these old like dinosaurs that are in Congress. As long as we start to replace the Nancy Pelosi's with, we got Shahid Buttar and Alex Morse running against Richie Nail, and these folks that are like trying to unseat these the political power centers of the Democratic Party. And we have to do our best to not allow them to be smeared, and to also like do our best to support them in every way that we can to try to get those candidates propelled forward. So thank you so much for still being here. I'm not going to run too long today, but I want to get to a few more things before I take off for today. Sorry, y'all. All righty. All right. So in response, okay, so to this letter from Sean Combs and Charlemagne the God and these other Black, entertainers, to this, I just wanted to let Malcolm X respond, because I love this clip from Malcolm X, who essentially just speaks on this idea of like Black leadership and Black celebrity leadership, to be specific. So let's just take a quick look at this clip, and then we will move along to some other stuff here.
I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals. Now, concerning the poll taken by Newsweek magazine, I think you said that this was the leaders who said that, who went with King and against Mr. Muhammad, around 90%. I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community, and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear. You'll find that oftentimes Negroes are as much on guard around Negro interviewers, who usually represent the bourgeois element of Negroes, as they are on guard around whites. Usually Negroes know that when this bourgeois Negro walks through the door, he is not doing something that he's initiated himself, but he's involved in something in which the white man is the absolute author of and has sent him to the Negro community for some information. And when they give that Negro some information, usually they give him the information that they want him to take back to the white man, because that's who he's going to take it back to.
All right. So yeah, that's just Malcolm X weighing in there. I think that that's just, a relevant, response and sort of take on these black black leaders who are entertainers, and just this idea that, like, when do you see, white musicians being called white leaders and leaders in the white community? And it's like they always try to prop up these people as like leaders of us, and like Sean, Puff Daddy and Charlemagne the God, when really it just hides the fact that they have a separate class interest from other black people. And so once you enter into that bourgeoisie class and that upper class, it's just that you cease to, likely, the likelihood is you cease to still have a connection to the reality of the people that are living in, working class backgrounds. You start to surround yourself with other bourgeoisie, and so that's what you end up with. And so it's just, we have to recognize when these folks are using identity as a weapon against us and not really, they don't actually value it in the same way that we might be valuing it, when it's to say we would like representation, but only insofar as our values are upheld. And so you got to have some principles. All right. So moving along, I just wanted to remind folks about like who Kamala Harris was. So I just want to watch a couple of I'd like to watch this clip of Kamala Harris. And this is just her take on, she thought it was kind of, funny, I guess, to be locking up parents of truant students. So I just want to hear from her on this, and let's hear from her on it. And see what this is about. You know what? I don't know if folks can hear this clip right now. I'm going to start it back. Sorry if that's unnecessary, but I just want to pull the clip up once more and make sure that it actually shares audio with you, because I don't think it was before. Sorry about that. All right.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my reelection race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. The school district has got a carrot. Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school. So to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district, outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
All right. So, I mean, could you imagine thinking that it's funny to, and saying, to point out the, we saw statistics that go from, middle school truancy to high school, dropout to, being a victim of crime to then being a perpetrator of crime. And could you imagine like having the systemic critique to then turn around and say, okay, so what we need to do then is, in order to stop that cycle, is to remove the parents who are probably working class people, who are probably working more than one job, likely to, raise a family and support a family, likely working at least one job full time, probably overtime, and maybe doesn't have the time to be, putting the child on the bus and all those sorts of things because, not through any fault of their own, but because simply they're just somebody that is trying to make ends meet and just doesn't have the time in today's society to be, looking after your kids when they're supposed to be at school. You assume they're at school, and you would hope that they were at school, but you can't be there. It's not like you can be at home all the time and, possibly not even dropping your kids off. I know that, I was raised by a single mother who had 5 kids to raise and worked, double shifts often. And I skipped school sometimes, and I could not fucking imagine if the punishment for me skipping school turned out to be that my mother was arrested and thrown in jail so that her 5 children had no mother to, work a job, to earn a paycheck, to put food on the table, to pay rent or for a mortgage at that point. And where would that put us at that point? Probably where she's a single mom. So once she gets locked up, then that means that, you're talking about going into social services, into, foster care potentially for 5 kids. Do we stay together? Do we get split up? Who knows? Who knows what the situation is for that? And that's the case, we're one of the luckier ones. There's, I'm sure, much worse situations, folks, that are just trying to get by. And to make that to have that be a policy is just, this is who she is. And she said that that's what she used her political capital for. And she thought it was funny that, she didn't have an opponent running. So she felt safe to, or I guess she said, they were worried about her having an opponent, because, and that's the thing, like these people run opposed mostly, they run unopposed. And so they feel very comfortable doing this sort of austerity and, police militarization tactics and police overreach. And so here we have this is who in the wake of the George Floyd protests and the Black Lives Matter movement, Joe Biden actually went ahead and selected possibly the worst running mate he could have selected for this moment. Possibly. I'm trying to think of another one that could have been. I mean, Val Demings would have been pretty bad because she was a chief of police. I mean, I really think Kamala Harris just represents, especially to a Black community that has already vetted her and gave a resounding no. I mean, she was polling terribly amongst Black people. And so Kamala Harris got no Black support. And that's why I think Joe Biden honestly felt safe to pick her, because he didn't need to pick up any Black support as far as he's concerned, because young Black people don't support Joe Biden, but older Black people do. And Joe Biden has locked up the older vote in such a way that he feels very, very safe right now. And so we're seeing that. And this is what this really means for the left, I believe, is that what you're seeing is that this is spitting in the face of the left. This is the Democratic Party showing that they have no intention whatsoever to pass anything remotely like a Medicare for all, a Green New Deal. Those things are not happening for the next 4 years. We are going to have to fight just to not have Joe Biden cut Social Security and Kamala Harris, start, beefing up the military budget, doubling and tripling our military budget, or starting to, lend some of the military budget funds to local police stations so they can start to, further militarize their cops. Or maybe they can pass a nationwide lock truant kids' parents up law. We're not getting legalized cannabis. These people don't support this stuff. So this is what we have. This is what we're stuck with here. And Mark McKeever says, these types of clips will unfortunately be fodder for Sump Pump's campaign. The misogynists are already out in droves all over social media. Yeah, absolutely. And there's some crazy stuff going on social media. I mean, I'll show you one thing that I saw here that I just thought was hilarious, that I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Oh, sorry. Let me pull this up. So this is a tweet from Charlie Kirk that went out after the announcement. Charlie Kirk is like one of the people that is a part of Turning Point USA, like this like college campus, like whatever, right-wing group, whatever. And Charlie Kirk says, "Thank you, Joe Biden, for nominating one of the most unpopular, callous Marxists in the country. Trump's chances just improved dramatically." So we got Charlie Kirk out here calling Kamala Harris a Marxist. I mean, these people do not even know anymore. Like and they said like, oh no, you can't run Bernie because they're gonna call Bernie a Marxist communist. I mean, they were gonna call anyone that ran, they were gonna call them a Marxist. So this is just, I mean, it's too funny, but I've read that this has been trending and people have been doing all kinds of like, oh, Kamala Harris is a, far left, like, Marxist, Leninist. So that's what we're dealing with there. These are the kinds of people, these are the clowns that we're working with here. So Charlie Kirk for y'all. This is Charlie Kirk. Oh, yes, we got comment from Steve Alvarez. What's up, Steve? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the support, Steve. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Steve's one of the new Patreon supporters. So real huge shout out to Steve. Thank you so much for the support on Patreon. Really, really love you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Nothing but love. All right. I got a comrade here that says they love you too. All right. So thank you for the comment, Steve, and I'll just throw Steve's comment up on there. Yeah, because you see, I mean, it makes you gotta fight back the laughter, to be honest, with these clowns. So I thought that I want to pull up. I want to share this clip again just to remind folks about this great clip from back in the debates. This was one of my favorite clips from the debates of this cycle, and it's a Kamala Harris debate clip. And let me grab it for us here, get it queued up. Give me one moment. And one more moment. Okay, here we go. So this right here is a clip of an exchange between Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris from the debate. And I think that this was one of the best moments of the 2020 debates, to be honest. And we talked about Tulsi Gabbard in the last stream. X is actually our Patreon supporter and, a frequent guest here in the Radical Democracy chat. X/no_name/_. Lives in Hawaii, gave us a little bit more background on Tulsi Gabbard and some of his thoughts on her. And I shared some of my thoughts, and I definitely am in favor of her anti-war stance. I think that she waffled on Medicare for all in a way that caused me to not be able to support her campaign, really. I mean, I was supportive of her campaign in general, but I wouldn't support her over Bernie Sanders. I supported Bernie Sanders and endorsed Bernie Sanders' campaign for Bernie Sanders. And so I just didn't like her rhetoric on Medicare for all. She started to talk about, essentially, she believed in a public option, really, and not in actually providing universal health care. And once you do that with me, it's just like that's one of my litmus tests, and honestly, just something that I can't get past if you're not at least there, because honestly, that's not far enough left for me. What I would like to see is at the very least a nationalized healthcare system. But for me, I would like a nationalized healthcare system that's operated by, democratically owned and operated hospitals and pharmacies and institutions. And so that's what I'd like to see, is just more democratic control within a nationalized healthcare system. So that's what, definitely nationally funded for sure. So this was a great moment. This is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's just kind of putting Kamala Harris right where she belongs, and just taking her to task. So let's take a look at Tulsi Gabbard and an exchange between Tulsi and Kamala. And I think also just note Kamala's weak response to this and her lack of prowess as a debater, really. So just furthering my belief that she really brings nothing to the table other than her, just blind loyalty to Joe Biden, willingness to cater to whatever he believes in without standing for anything for herself. So let's take a look.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman
That's a lie.
Gabbard back in. You're responsible.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced, to say, I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud of it. I think you can judge people by when they are under fire, and it's not about some fancy opinion on a stage, but when they're in the position to actually make a decision, what do they do? When I was in the position of having to decide whether or not to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted, I made a very difficult decision that was not popular to not seek the death penalty. History shows that, and I am proud of those decisions.
Okay, we're about to see. Let's check and see. Let's pull up the receipts here. All right. So let's pull up some receipts on Kamala Harris. So you heard what Tulsi Gabbard said there. I'm gonna go through a few different, like I said, receipts here for Tulsi Gabbard. So first one up. Let's see. All right. So here we go. Kamala Harris's AG office tried to keep inmates locked up for cheap labor. So that was one of Tulsi's many claims here. Let's see how that holds up. Lawyers for California also argued that allowing certain inmates to be paroled early would deplete a program that allowed prisons to fight wildfires. Okay, so they had these prisoners not just out here doing any kind of labor, but in fact risking their lives fighting their wildfires that are caused by the effed up climate change of the fossil fuel industry. And you got prisoners out here working, doing slave labor, fighting fires, taking jobs away from, union jobs away from firefighters, or, taking away, fully paid, those are some of really high, those can be some of the highest paid jobs, on average. And so the actual union jobs in firefighting, those are like $27 an hour. I think when I looked at the average in California. So it's a decent average pay. And so for something that doesn't require a college degree. And so ordered to reduce the population of California's overcrowded prisoners, lawyers from then California Attorney General Kamala Harris's office made the case that some nonviolent offenders needed to stay incarcerated, or else the prison system would lose a source of cheap labor. In 2011, the Supreme Court ruled in Brown v. Plata that California's prisons were so overcrowded that they violated the Constitution's prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. 3 years later, in early 2014, the state was ordered to allow nonviolent second-time offenders who have served half of their sentence to be eligible for parole. So already we're talking about nonviolent offenders. These are people who shouldn't even be in a prison in the first place. Why are we locking up nonviolent offenders? That's absurd. These are people that what did they do? Drug offenses? Like, this is not something that we need to be putting people into a violent system in order to punish them for it. That's not a rehabilitative system. And so these are, non-violent people who have served at least half of their sentence. And so people have done time, more time than any non-violent offender should be doing, which is 0 time. But that wasn't enough for them. They said, no, keep these people locked up. Kamala Harris said, no, keep them locked up because we need slave labor. All right. And if, I hope nobody thinks slave labor is hyperbole, because if you read the 13th Amendment, it says, slavery is illegal in this country, except in the case of prison labor. So we have a special exception carved out in our 13th Amendment for slave labor and for prisoners. So this is what the legacy of Kamala Harris is here, is keeping people locked up longer for the purpose of maintaining a healthy pool of not just cheap labor. I mean, it's beyond cheap labor. It's slave labor. We're talking about less than $1 a day to fight wildfires when you're talking about a $30 an hour job that's a union protected retirement and benefits. And this is what was being, these people's lives were being put at risk, and they were being put on the front lines of fighting fires for as slaves. We have a slave labor force doing this work out there. And when people talk about, oh, it's the immigrants coming and taking people's jobs, it's like, no, look first at this right here, at the for-profit prison industry, where we have mass incarceration, 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's populated people, 2.3 million people incarcerated, the majority of them locked up right now because they can't afford their bail. They can't afford cash bail. And we're one of only 2 countries in the entire world that even have a cash bail system. The other being the Philippines, with a psychopathic, dictator for a president, Rodrigo Duterte, and calls himself the Trump of the Pacific, or some name like that. And this dude is a crazed dude who literally condones extrajudicial murders of people for smoking cannabis, but he himself is on a prescription for fentanyl. So look it up if you don't believe me. Just check it out. This stuff is all easily verifiable. And so this is the system that we're talking about here. And she's out here, Kamala Harris is out here, maintaining a slave labor system. But we got a bunch of black people like Sean Diddy Combs and Charlemagne the God out here, advocating for a fucking, slave master. So because it's a black woman slave master, that's the kind of slave master they can get behind. So we cool with slave masters in the black community, apparently, as long as they're women. We're cool with supporting slave masters. That's where we're at. Really? That's disgusting. That's disgusting. And so it pisses me off. So sorry, I get a little riled up. I'll try to take it down a notch here. Okay, so let me read a quick comment to cheer me up. I saw one from Steve, says, "That's a lie. Kamala, they needed you during the debate." I wish, yeah. I wish. Nice. I like this one from Steve as well. Tulsi Gabbard, I ain't wrong all the time. Nice. But yeah, so this is what we're working with here. This. So let's check some more receipts here. I got some more receipts here. So let's check out more on Kamala Harris here. Get you the next one here. And this is on Kamala Harris says that she's never supported, she's been, against the death penalty her whole career, she said. So let's see, how that holds up. All right. So this is from ABC News from August 21st, 2019. And it's titled Kamala Harris's Dual Roles, Mixed Record with the Death Penalty. So Kamala Harris has a varied record on the death penalty despite her claims. And you'll see how, this is ABC News. This is a corporate outlet. So the framing is going to be from a neoliberal framing. And so you can already see they frame it as a varied record on the death penalty. Just call her, say that she lied. She lied about her record on the death penalty. She lied. And so I'll just skip past, I don't need to go over it. Sure, she's had some cases where she's done well, but remember what her stance was. She's always been against the death penalty. So let's see. So just to note, during her 2004 bid for the office of San Francisco District Attorney, Harris was a rising political star who campaigned in part on the promise that she would never seek the death penalty. Never seek the death penalty. It was a popular stance with voters there, but it was a promise that would almost immediately be tested. Harris was just 3 months into the job when a 22-year-old gang member named David Hill shot and killed a young on-duty police officer, Isaac Espinoza. Shout out to David Hill. Calls for the death penalty rang out from community members and politicians alike. 2 days after Espinoza's death and 2 days before Espinoza's funeral, Harris held a joint press conference with the then head of the San Francisco Police Union, where she announced that she would not seek the death penalty for Hill. Okay, that sounds good. The decision ignited outrage and reportedly blindsided Espinoza's family, who later told CNN they did not know of Harris's decision until she announced it publicly. At Espinoza's funeral, Senator Dianne Feinstein called out Harris for a decision. So here we go. This is the senator from California. Now, the Democratic senator from California, who was a Dixiecrat before and flew the Confederate flag, Senator Dianne Feinstein, over here talking about, calling out Harris for not seeking the death penalty against a person who killed a cop. And Feinstein's take was that this is not only the definition of tragedy, it's the special circumstance called for by the death penalty. So Feinstein was all about, really fighting for that death penalty because you can't, you killed a cop. This is a special circumstance. She earned a standing ovation from uniformed officers in attendance. So that's Harris, in 2004, standing up, right? Standing up for a person on facing the death penalty. So now, though, we go on to 2010, when Harris had ascended to a larger political stage, becoming California's top prosecutor. So now it's no longer San Francisco's prosecutor, where she locked up over 1,500 people for cannabis as the prosecutor in San Francisco, of all places, liberal San Francisco. But we see that capital punishment has long been a divisive issue statewide. Polling currently shows that 61% of Californians support the death penalty as a possible punishment for serious crimes. I disagree with them, just based on the simple fact that we get it wrong sometimes, and I'm not going to. I can't condone getting it wrong once. And if we have a system that's not 100% accurate, then I'm not. I'm not. I can't support it. So. And anyways, and it costs a lot of money. So economically, it's not efficient because of all the pails and all that sort of stuff. And then I think on the left, we should also just kind of have a path to redemption for people and really try to offer a path towards redemption. And so on that note as well, I just don't, it's something that I've been innately not really believed in. And then through the statistics, it's just confirmed what I already kind of lean towards. And so, yeah, I just don't believe in the death penalty. Let me know if you disagree with me in the comments. So the case that Gabbard may have been referring to on the debate stage, and this is referring to now that clip that we just watched. So the case that Gabbard may have been referring to on the debate stage was that of convicted murderer Kevin Cooper, who was sentenced to death for a quadruple homicide in San Bernardino, California in 1983. When asked by ABC News whether Cooper's case was what Gabbard was referring to during the debate, an aide for Gabbard's campaign said that Cooper was one of the names of people Kamala Harris tried to keep in prison, even though there was evidence to suggest they might be innocent. So that was an aide for Gabbard's campaign. So the aide also listed the names of other individuals who are not on death row and not discussed in this reporting. So they were just kept in prison, even though they weren't on death row, but she kept them in prison, even though there was evidence suggesting that they might be innocent. So this was just one of the most egregious, because it was a death row inmate. So, and still is a death row inmate, by the way, Kevin Cooper. So Cooper was convicted of killing a couple, their young daughter and her friend, a young boy who was sleeping over at the family's home in Chino Hills, California. The couple's 8-year-old son survived the attack and was found with a knife wound across his neck. During the sentencing phase of the case and in later appeals, Cooper's attorney alleged that evidence had been tampered with or manipulated, and the defense argued that the description of the attacker offered by the only surviving victim did not resemble Cooper. The then 8-year-old victim said in his videotape testimony that he believed the 3 men who had visited his home earlier that night could have been the attackers, but did not testify that multiple people were present during the attack. Okay, the victim would later testify before a court against Cooper. What followed was a lengthy battle by Cooper's attorneys to appeal the case first to state courts and then to the Ninth Circuit of Court Appeals. So I'm gonna show you something that details this without their effed up framing that they have here. So I'm going to show you something that doesn't use their framing about this case that shows it from a different light. So suffice to say, so in 2009, so the question of Harris's actions surfaced later when Cooper and his lawyers asked the state to approve additional DNA testing, which they argued could exonerate him. Harris's team did not take up the case, and evidence from the crime scene was never re-examined while Harris held state office. So the entire time she held state office, that case with that crime scene, the evidence from that crime scene was never re-examined. She refused to take that case up as Attorney General, and for that, he remained on death row. And the Governor Gavin Newsom of California has, in 2018, he ordered that a DNA test be performed, but Kevin Cooper has been waiting for the results of that DNA test for what is now almost going on 20 months. The last report that I could find was in June, and it was 18 months at that point that he had gone without receiving the results of his DNA test. And so yeah, this seems like something that could definitely be done and handled at this stage. So he still remains on death row. So let me just show you one other, take on that. This is somebody wrote I just want to show just a quick little bit of this. And this is from a New York Times opinion piece that somebody that did a documentary on this that I believe came out on like Netflix or something. I'm pretty sure I watched the documentary, not realizing that it was this case that was connected to Kamala Harris. I only realized it when I was doing the research for this and just recognized that case as something that I had watched. Just stood out about, so let me show you this. One sec here. All right, so and this is from a New York Times piece, and this is about that case, and it says in 1983, 4 people were murdered in a home in Chino Hills, California. You can see some of the crime scene photos there, some gruesome stuff. The sole survivor of the attack said 3 white intruders had committed the murders. So the sole survivor of the attack, that young boy, they say, said 3 white intruders had committed the murders. So even though in the framing of the ABC article, it claimed that the boy had only said that those kids were, that those intruders were there earlier, no, it seems from this framing that no, that young survivor actually said though that those intruders had committed the murders. Then a woman told the police that her boyfriend, a white convicted murderer, was probably involved, and she gave deputies his bloody coveralls. And then you can see a little clipping here from the case, and it says, in the hours following the discovery of the murderers, multiple pieces of evidence strongly indicated that the murders had been committed by a group of 3 white men. Shortly after arriving at the hospital for treatment, the only surviving victim, Josh Ryan, gave statements to 2 different individuals inculpating 3 white men in the vicious murder of his father, mother, sister, and friend, who happened to be spending the night. Likewise, upon learning of the murders, several members of the community came forward to report 3 strange white men in the Canyon Corral bar. So here's what sheriff's deputies did. They threw away the bloody coveralls and arrested a young black man named Kevin Cooper. He is now awaiting execution. Boom. So this is a much different framing, I would say, of that case. And that's what really seems to have happened. And with all of this evidence and, being there and her having access to this evidence, she still felt necessary to keep this, potentially innocent person from just getting a damn DNA test to even check to see, his lawyers fighting for a DNA test because, guilty people always do that all the time. I mean, there's reasons why you would, just to try, obviously, you never know, but still, it's all you had to do was just okay a DNA test. And for something so significant where there's just so much overwhelming evidence to suggest, in circumstantial evidence to suggest that otherwise, that somebody else committed these murders. And from what I understood from the documentary, if this is correct, those people went on to harm additional people that possibly their lives could have been saved by the cops catching the correct people. You not only do you ruin the person's life who you falsely charge with this crime, but then you also do harm to other people's lives by leaving those actual criminals free to go do harm to other people. So all right, so let's take a look at a couple more receipts here for what or maybe that is, I think that's all we got for, we could, let me see if there's anything. I don't think this brings anything else new into it, so I think that's okay. I don't think that we have to do any more on that. So let me read a few comments here. Mark McKeever says 92 subs, race to 100. Yes, please do me a favor. If you haven't already, do me a huge favor and please like and subscribe to the channel. We are at, last I checked, we were at 92 subscriptions. Maybe Tammy can check it out and let me know if anything's changed. But we were at 92 subscriptions last I checked, and we're really working hard to get to 100. So if you can share this out, share this stream far and wide, share the clips far and wide, and just if you know anyone, if you know anyone that is on the left and would be open to hearing these kinds of discussions, then please do me a favor and share the stream with them and ask them to subscribe and just let them know we're trying to grow the channel. We're starting out from the bottom up, from nothing, and in just a matter, I had less than 10 subscribers 3 weeks ago, and now we're nearing 100. So I think that's really, honestly, it feels really great. And it seems like it's much, I've done other YouTube channels before on other cannabis growing channel before and something like that. And so I've done some other channels before and didn't have growth like this in those. And so this is really special, I think, and really, just encouraging to see the support from the community. And it's just, I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough to everyone who is on Patreon supporting there, and to everyone just on Twitter and wherever else you might be sharing out the message. I really do appreciate it. And it goes such a long way. So if you know anyone, get them to subscribe, and just let's get to 100. I will definitely celebrate on stream. Do a little, I hope if I see when I'm getting close to 100, I'll definitely go live and be live when I'm getting close to 100. I'll dance for y'all. No, I won't actually. I will never do that. But I will do a little shimmy. I'll do a little shimmy when we make it to 100. So let's make it to 100 though. Really share this thing out, and we are going to grow, and it's going to be 100 next week, and then 1,000 in a few months, and then 100,000. Here we come, and we'll all, my goal is to bring everyone along for the ride, and hopefully make this a community project where I'm really collaborating with the community, maybe bringing on guests from the community, because I want to talk to working class people and just folks that are just living life and just connecting and hearing from the people. And also just eventually I want to get phones working so where folks can call in and we can take some calls and get folks, discussing that way, because I think, I'm the kind of person that I'm not much of a writer, but I like to talk, as you see. And so I would be more open to like calling sometimes than typing in or writing in or emailing in for me personally. And so I want to open up lines of communication to the community and just have the community as involved as possible. I've been getting help from the community on things like logo design and stuff like that. Just folks that are volunteering and helping out. This isn't like, I'm not making money really off it. We're up to $32 a month on Patreon. The goal is to get to 100 ASAP. I set the goal, to be by the end of August, even though I think that that's a really ambitious goal. But I do plan to make the announcement about this channel to some friends and close friends and folks I consider family, and let them know, and hopefully pick up some support from folks close to me who don't even know that I'm doing this right now. And then, just continue with the support from the community and let that hopefully continue to grow and get some help from wherever we can. And had some folks reach out and talk about, doing some more collaborating and helping out and volunteering in ways that they can. And it's really moving, and I just appreciate it so much. And I'm really looking forward to it. Honestly, I'm like really excited to make that happen and to engage with the community in that way. So, my goal is to build a democratic workplace from the ground up, and to try to really make that my fight against capitalism by really building a anti-capitalist, workplace and work environment where it's not just, it's truly socialist and democratic, and allowing people to have a democratic say and control over what all those major decisions that happen, the folks that are contributing and giving up their time and energy and effort. I wanted them to be able to participate democratically in the growth of that business. So we'll definitely, figure that out as we go and make that happen. And that's the goal always. So you're helping to make that happen whenever you contribute, and definitely, putting the financial support behind it is like, it's just massive. My Patreon is down below. You can see, and you can see Steve says, "Yo, Mark, that's the goal." Yes, it is. Thank you so much for all the support, y'all. Really, the goal is to get to that 100. And so please, do whatever we can, whatever you can. And I'm doing whatever I can to try to grow the channel and get that support. And honestly, I'm really encouraged by what's happening already. It seems like in just a short amount of time and with very little of exposure, the channel's already getting a lot of support, and we're getting a lot of engagement, and we're getting a lot of support. And so I really think that this is something that we can scale up, and we can turn into and grow into be a part of the left-wing spaces, and to have this community be brought into that. And so, I plan to learn and grow by my interactions with the community and folks that we're, just talking to in the chat here. I'm learning, I'm growing. And so I bring that all along with me wherever I go, and then just trying to do some democratic things inside of the community. And then also bringing folks in to work with, I'll need a producer eventually if we grow big enough, and folks and things like that. And I'll want to be doing that in a democratic, we'll have a democratic workplace built out, and I'm really excited to make that happen. And by contributing to that in any way, sharing, liking, subscribing, and contributing to the Patreon, you make that happen. And so just thank you so much for all the support. Really, really, really means like the world to me. And I just can't thank you all enough. So I appreciate it so much, so much. All right, let me just read through some more of these comments. Steve Alvarez says, "I'm going to look for clips to share on my pathetic Twitter account. Seriously, though, let's help break 100. Yeah, thank you so much. First off, yeah, like I'm cutting up all my videos that are the long videos into clips. This one might be a tough one to cut up. I'll see what I can do, but these sort of one topic kind of videos don't really work for it. More so like the full episode videos where I do research on a bunch of different topics and then I present all those topics. Those are much easier to clip up. So I'll try to pull some clips from this, but this is a much harder piece to like clip up. I have to do a lot more work to sort of go in and find out where the hell like things can be clipped from. So the episodes are much more designed for that. And so I'm trying to do all the work to kind of like, it's I have to do the live streams, and then I have to, and now I need to start like recording the video in addition to doing the live stream, which I didn't do today, but I'm going to start to do so I can get a higher quality video when I upload, so that I'm not uploading it to 720p. I want to upload it to 1080p. And so like but it requires even more technology. And so like, I might have to, I have a second computer that I can use and like stuff like that. So I'll see what I have to do to make this happen, and to get, just keep increasing the quality and the quantity. Hopefully, I am hopefully starting school in the fall, so that'll shift things up a little bit for me, but things are still a little fluid right now because finances aren't great, and with the unemployment benefits being cut the way they were, and just the uncertainty of unemployment benefits, I'm like right teetering on the line of like not being able to afford next semester. And so I don't know, I'm not certain anymore whether I'll be in school for next semester or not. And so I'll either, it all depends sort of whatever happens with that. So it's just a stupid, like financial thing. And so I'll see whatever happens. So, please support the Patreon, and hopefully, it's not going to be enough to help me get to college, probably not in time, but helping to support will at least grow it in a way that it makes it so that I don't have to feel terrible that I failed at that, and that I'm not going to be able to do that. And then maybe this will be a viable thing for me at that point. So let me see. And I don't believe you that you have a pathetic Twitter account. If you have a pathetic Twitter account, you better be participating in the No Comrades Under 1K movement right now. I've been really having fun with that, just retweeting. If you're under 1K followers, like, let me know, and I'll definitely be I will keep boosting. I'll boost anyone's account that's under 1K or 2K or 5K or 10K. I mean, I don't even have 2,000 followers yet on Twitter. I'm at like 1,400 or something. I started this whole thing with like 800 followers or something when the whole like No Comrade Under 1K started. And I picked up like over 500 followers through the No Comrades Under 1K, honestly, over the course of like the past week. So if you need to boost your account, I think it's a great movement to get. I've loved my Twitter feed now that I got way more like comrades in my Twitter feed. Like my Twitter feed just completely, I had a disproportionate amount of like mainstream news, like folks and neoliberals in Twitter feed. And it was just like, it was becoming just frustrating space to be in sometimes. So really, I love the new Twitter feed, just having all the comrades following all these comrades and just folks that are real left-wing, leftists. And so if you aren't participating and you do think that your Twitter account needs a boost, you should be participating in that No Comrades Under 1K, and I'll boost the hell out of you. And so just tweet at me and say I need a boost or something, or I'll just try to go and boost everyone from the show. I know most of whoever's following me on Twitter, I know most of your handles if you're like communicating with me. But let me know if I don't know your Twitter handle, drop it in the comments or something, and I'll boost you. We want to get everybody's accounts over 1K, but we should get them all over 2K and then 5K and then 10K. Like, I know there's more than 10,000 comrades on Twitter that are doing things like this, and we just got to connect together so that we can amplify the voices of everyday working class people. And so I love this movement for No Comrades Under 1K. On that topic, I just saw that Steve Alvarez says, "Word, I didn't know No Comrade Under 1K was a thing. I saw it, but I thought it was just one person." No. Yeah, it's a really awesome, it's like the most fun I've had on Twitter in ever. And it's a really cool movement. And I've seen tons of people and some really big people. I got followed by Hamdia Ahmed, who is like a African refugee, Black Lives Matter activist, and just all around like exceptional person. And she followed and retweeted, and I got like over 100 followers in literally like 5 minutes. I picked up like over 100 new followers when she retweeted, and so you got people like big people with big platforms. Like she has like 35,000 plus like followers, and she's participating. And just it's people like that and accounts like that are trying to, larger accounts, larger left-wing accounts, boosting up the smaller accounts. I've been trying to boost like people that the smaller the better has been my goal. Is like the smaller the account, the more fun it feels like to like the more impactful it feels like to try to boost them. So you'll get people that are like under 100, and then within a few minutes you got them like over 100 or like at 200, and it's just like, you know, they're like, I've had 70 followers for like 3 years now, and now I have like a couple hundred. And so it's just an awesome movement. Get involved, definitely do it. Tweet at me if you don't see me boost you and you don't see a tweet go out with me tweeting out and boosting your account, like tweet at me and make sure I do it, because I definitely need to be boosting all of y'all. And we should just do that to boost comrades and get more voices heard and more communication, more solidarity. That's real solidarity building right there. Like that really is like, that's how you build online solidarity right there. Like that's it. And so, and I've picked up so many like accounts, like comrades that are either Black or Indigenous people of color, you know, persons of color, or queer accounts, like trans and queer accounts. I think it's just amazing. Like I need to be more connected into these communities, and I've wanted to for so long. And so this is really giving me an opportunity to sort of connect into all these different communities, and it just feels really good. So it's a really cool movement, and it's exactly the kind of thing I think that we need to be doing on the left to build solidarity and try to unite the left. And I mean, I got anarchists, communists, socialists, and some social democrats on there that are like, hey, is it cool if I jump in on this? Like, I don't know about socialism yet, but I just want everybody to have healthcare. And I'm like, cool, we'll get you over there. We'll bring you along. Don't worry. Just come in, step in, get your feet wet. The water's warm. And then we drag them all the way left. All right. We got them. All right. And so, yeah, it's been fun. Make sure you let's keep that going too. All right. Let's see. All right, let's see some more of these comments. Mark McKeever says, my Twitter account is so pathetic that it literally is non-existent. Well, Mark McKeever, if you do get a Twitter account, now's a great time to get one and to get boosted in with the rest of the comrades. And so if you do get one, tweet at me at @onto5th. My Twitter link is in the description box below. Hey, by the way, if you're here, thank you so much for watching. If you're here and you haven't already, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like and subscribe button below. Hit the bell to receive notifications so that you are notified anytime we go live. And if you can afford it, please do me a favor and head over to patreon.com/radicaldemocracy. Again, there's a link at the bottom of the description box, although I might have not updated the description box for this one, but I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Link should be in the description box below. But if you don't see a link there, just go to patreon.com/radicaldemocracy. And please do me a favor and drop me, a few dollars a month. It will make a world of a difference. If you know anyone else that can support the cause, that can afford to spare a few dollars a month, please, send this out to them. Ask them for their support, new Black leftist media, independent media. I think that this is how we're going to, this is movement building. This is what it's about. And so I do appreciate the support, and I want to, again, build a democratic workplace, try to overthrow capitalism, one worker cooperative at a time. And so I would really love to have you join me for that and contribute and collaborate with me on that. And so thank you so much. And I appreciate all of my Patreon patrons right now. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting the way that you do. It's just monumental, and it means so much. And it really motivates me to get up every day and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And so thank you so much for all your support. Steve Alvarez says LMAO. I love how he just mumbled out his previous cannabis channels. Yep. You guys can check out my old cannabis channel, Greener Thumbs. It's got some good tutorials on there. I did a lot of deep water culture, growing in deep water culture. And then I did hydroponics, but using coco coir as a medium, and just did, indoor growing. So I learned how to grow cannabis in Jamaica. My family, I was born and raised Rastafarian. My father is like the elder Rasta where I live in Westmoreland, Jamaica. It's in this little place up in the rural Jamaica, up in the hills of rural Jamaica. And
It's called Bathhouse. I nobody will know where the hell it is, but it's the closest place that people will know is like Negril, Jamaica. And it's just, my brothers grow, some of my brothers grow cannabis for a living. And so that's just kind of the lifestyle. But, we always grew cannabis around the house, and then we would grow foods. And my father's a farmer, so he's still a farmer, always been a farmer his whole life. It just like, that's how we survive when we're down there. When I'm down there, I farm foods. My Rastafarians are vegetarians, so just fruits, vegetables, and cannabis. And so, yeah, it's destigmatized in my family and my, so, oh, Steve says, wait, so Steve says, wait, where's the super chat option? So I don't know that I'm able to use the super chat option, unfortunately, yet. So yeah, like I really wish I could, because that would be awesome if folks like wanted to support and stuff. If you want to throw a couple extra bucks at some point, I don't know if it can be done through Patreon or something, but for now, so if folks want to support some way, like, and you want to throw a couple extra, like, I don't know if there's a way to do it through Patreon or something right now. I can give folks like my Venmo and stuff or something. But like, I don't know if YouTube only does super chats once you're able to monetize your channel, but you can't monetize your channel until you have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watched hours. So right now, I forget how much I have right now. I have to check, but it's like, I have to look, but it's a few hundred watched hours or whatever. And I got to get to like 4,000. So I got to get a lot more, videos up and just more people, more subscribers. Really, it's the subscriber count that's going to matter. Really, once I'm up to like 1,000 subscribers, then people will be watching just more. There will be more eyes on the videos and more time being watched. And so I definitely need to grow the channel more. And I think that in order to do super chats, as far as I understand it right now, I have to be monetized. I think I have to get all the way to being able to be monetized, which is annoying. I'll take a look in here and just see if it says anything in the settings or anything like that, but I'm not seeing anything in YouTube settings. Thank you so much to everyone that's liked the stream so far. I really appreciate that. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I'm not seeing any sort of option for, not seeing any sort of option for a super chat, unfortunately, or to allow that. So yeah, sorry about that. It's super annoying. I really would have, I appreciate the interest in that, and definitely will appreciate anyone that can, definitely sign up on the Patreon. You can sign up you can do more than $10, but I don't do any more than you can afford ever. Don't ever do more than you can afford. But I have only tiers up to $10, but I think you can just contribute whatever you want every month. And like, I wish there was like a one-time thing on Patreon. I'm sorry for not knowing this stuff. But yeah, you can do more than the 10 if you can afford it, but only if you can afford it. And seriously, like, if you can't afford it, don't worry about it. I don't want to pressure people. We'll grow the channel. I promise you. Just keep on sharing this thing and sharing it to people And I, like, from what I've seen so far, if more people see it and know that it exists, it's just that nobody knows it exists right now. Once people learn and know that it exists, from what I've seen, folks enjoy the stream, and we've just from the small community that we have so far, and just from because I haven't done like some crazy advertising or promotion or anything like that of promoting the channel. It's just been really small, grassroots, organic growth for the channel, and it's already growing pretty fast. So yeah, thank you so much for the suggestion, Steve, and I will look more into it and see if there's anything that I can do. I'll also try to grab just I have only my personal Venmo or whatever, but I can set up a one for Radical Democracy and have a Venmo for that, so that I can take any kind of on the spot contributions if anyone feels hey, tip this brother for this stream or something like that, because it is appreciated. It's hot as hell in this room. I can't run my AC or my fan, when I'm doing the stream because the noise, and so it gets hot up in here. So yeah, I'm definitely working for this. So let's see. Let me just read some more comments here. Steve Alvarez says LMAO. I love how he. Okay, yeah, but we saw that. Skeptical Mantis says this election is a joke. Yes, I agree with you 1000%. Skeptical Mantis, thank you so much for chatting and for leaving a comment here. Sorry it took me so long to get to your comment, but I agree with you 1000%. Skeptical Mantis, this election is an absolute joke. This is just a travesty. You got just, corporate owned capitalists, just stooges, one against the other. You got just two Republican tickets, and they're playing this gross identity politics game that just makes me sick to my stomach. Luckily, I think that Black folks are resisting the pandering, but I think that there's still, because Obama, I think a lot of people that would have, maybe been susceptible to it before, recognized after Obama that like the identity politics shit is for the birds, and like they will use that against us. They will try to give us just that. They will give us only identity and nothing more, nothing substantive, only identity. And so we have to be very careful about that and make sure that we, especially when we use like it as like Black folks, like I went in on Kamala when they announced, like, you can check my tweets going back, like I'll find some and like retweet. You can check my tweets from like 2017. I was like gearing up to be like, listen, y'all, we can't do this with Kamala in 2020. Like, I got tweets from back then that are like, yo, let me start going in on her record right now so that I can start to lay the groundwork for like the foundation for like why we cannot be doing this, and why I'm going to use my Blackness to shut down the white liberals that will go out there and be like, attacking white comrades that are going to be like, fuck Kamala Harris, rightfully so, for her terrible record. But then, other white folks will sit there and call them out for being white and be like, oh, you don't have a right to speak on this. You have no opinion on this. That's when I love to slide on up in there and be like, oh, for real though? Well, what about me? I'm Black. Do I get to talk about Black? Them not using, I don't care about a Black candidate if they're a Black neoliberal corporate, backed establishment candidate, that I can speak out against that and not be, they tried to erase us with like the whole Bernie bro narrative, and they tried to erase as many, Black people and women from the movement. And so, yeah, just, shout out to Skeptical Manus. Thank you so much for commenting and for being here. Honestly, would love to hear more from you, because I like what you got to say here. The election is an absolute joke and a sham. And it's just like, nothing's going to, I love I should pull up the, you know what? I'm going to pull up the George Carlin. Let's watch this clip together. This is one of my favorite clips to pull up when elections like this roll around. This is a good, if you don't watch George Carlin, I highly recommend you do. He's got, some stuff that might make people cringe a little bit nowadays, but a little bit, he has just a little bit. I think most of the stuff, he was ahead of his time. He's definitely got some areas where we would be a little sensitive to on the left here, and rightfully so. But outside of that, that very limited, narrow area where he's problematic. I think that for the most part, Carlin is a just left-wing political, and comedic genius, and should be watched and listened to, and really have his words like dissected and understood as like, this is real information he was given to the left and shit. So let's check this clip out here, just in reference to what Skeptical Manus said here about the election is a joke. This is how I feel about this election. Not quite, because we'll see from the clip, but I don't take it to this extreme, because I'm still going to vote, but we'll see. This is George Carlin on why he doesn't vote. So. I don't think that my stream will get shut down for this. I'm pretty sure this is public domain. So here we go. Let me drop that comment out for a second. Please feel free to comment again, please, Skeptical. Love to have you here in the chat. All right, let's listen to George Carlin here. Oh, ish. Hold on, I gotta pull this back up because I didn't share the audio. All right, here we go.
One thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians. Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah. Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out. If you have selfish, ignorant citizens, you're going to get selfish, ignorant leaders. And term limits ain't going to do you any good. You're just going to wind up with a brand new bunch of selfish, ignorant Americans. So maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks around here, like the public. Yeah, the public sucks. There's a nice campaign slogan for somebody. The public sucks. Fuck hope. Fuck hope. Because if it's really just the fault of these politicians, then where are all the other bright people of conscience? Where are all the bright, honest, intelligent Americans ready to step in and save the nation and lead the way? We don't have people like that in this country. Everybody's at the mall, scratching his ass, picking his nose, taking his credit card out of his fanny pack and buying a pair of sneakers with lights in them. So I have solved this little political dilemma for myself in a very simple way. On election day, I stay home. I don't vote. Fuck them. Fuck them. I don't vote. Two reasons I don't vote. First of all, it's meaningless. This country was bought and sold and paid for a long time ago. The shit they shuffle around every 4 years doesn't mean a fucking thing. And secondly, I don't vote because I believe if you vote, you have no right to complain. People like to twist that around. I know. They say, well, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. But where's the logic in that? If you vote and you elect dishonest, incompetent people, and they get into office and screw everything up, well, you are responsible for what they have done. You caused the problem. You voted them in. You have no right to complain. I, on the other hand, who did not vote, who in fact did not even leave the house on election day, am in no way responsible for what these people have done and have every right to complain as loud as I want about the mess you created that I had nothing to do with. So I know that a little later on this year, you're going to have another one of those really swell presidential elections that you like so much. You'll enjoy yourselves. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure as soon as the election is over, your country will improve immediately. As for me, I'll be home on that day doing essentially the same thing as you. The only difference is when I get finished masturbating, I'm going to have a little something to show for it, folks. Thank you very much.
All right. So that's Carlin that's the late, great George Carlin on why he doesn't vote. And I just love, the shit they shuffle around every 4 years. Like, it's just, it's garbage. They just shuffle around the same shit every 4 years. It's two sides of the same coin. And we get more drone bombing, more, deportations, more militarized police, more increased military budgets, more, forever wars. We support the war in Yemen where we're causing how much destruction given the Saudi government, weapons to go murder and commit genocide against the Yemeni people, or the Israeli government that we give foreign aid to so that they can turn around and oppress and create an apartheid state against the Palestinians and destroy those, brown lives over there and destroy those lives. And, this is what, these people do. They'll,
back Wall Street, and they'll protect the banks, and they'll bail out the banks and screw the American people and cut Social Security and cut your Medicaid and stop you from getting the health care you need and create these convoluted systems. And it's all garbage, right? It's garbage in, garbage out, right? That's what we got. We got garbage in, garbage out. And so, yeah, this is the function of this is what the American political system has become, sadly. And I love that take. I personally, I plan to vote for either Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker, or Jeff Mackler on, Howie Hawkins and Angela Mackler are running for the Green Party, and then Jeff Mackler, I just say Andrea Mackler, so Howie Hawkins and Andrea Walker are running on Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker are running on the Green Party ticket, and Jeff Mackler, I don't know who his running mate is, running as a socialist, and his rhetoric, he's like a Trotskyite socialist, and his rhetoric and his stance is just, his policies align and strategy aligns with mine. So I plan to vote that way. I live in Massachusetts, so my vote almost doesn't matter. So Joe Biden's going to win Massachusetts. It's just a foregone conclusion, and so he'll get all the electoral votes from Massachusetts. So whoever I vote for will not matter, will not have any significance weight outside of the fact that I can actually vote my values and make a statement with my vote. And that's the only value that my vote has, is to make the statement that, I will not be co-opted by the Democratic Party or taken for granted by the Democratic Party any longer. And so that's just that. All right. So Mark McKeever says the difference now is that they're more blatant about the lies and bad policies, and most take it. Yeah, it's gotten so bad because they, at this point, they only have to scare you at Trump and the Republicans, and just Trump's so bad, and it's oh, scary Trump, that you better fall in line, vote blue no matter who, right? I mean, that's the line that they feed us. And where's that gotten us? Where's vote blue no matter who gotten us? It's gotten us to Trump. It's gotten us to the worst response to a global pandemic in the entire world. And we have 5% of the world's population, but over 25% of the world's COVID-19 cases and deaths. So we were just the number one overall. Brazil keeps we keep on trading back and forth with Brazil for the worst COVID crisis in the world, the highest number of cases and deaths. But we are right up there, number 1 and 2, constantly just vying for that lead there and leading the world, and just being so vicious and to our citizens to provide we have such bad infrastructure and no healthcare system, and just a really garbage for-profit healthcare system that could not hold up to the pandemic. I mean, we stockpile massive amounts of oil in this country, but we didn't stockpile medical equipment, ventilators, PPE, anything like that. We didn't have manufacturing in place in order to spin up manufacturing so that we could manufacture things like masks and gloves for our medical workers and folks that most vulnerable folks that need it. But much more so, we should have had that kind of equipment for everybody who wanted it and everybody who needed it, really, because it wasn't even a want, it was a need at that point, in order to keep everybody safe. So I think that they've gotten more blatant about the lies, and it's a situation where people are just afraid of the worser of the two evils, and they're two evils, make no mistake about it. And they've gotten one so bad with Trump that they feel like they can just run anything. And this is why Wall Street's happy. No, Wall Street's not concerned at all. They don't care who wins this election, and you shouldn't either, really. You shouldn't either with this election upcoming. If Trump wins, then we got one set of problems, right? Which is just that, you got the next 4 years that are going to be more treachery and just all the same shit that policy wise that Joe Biden would be doing, but with all the worst rhetoric, just terrible rhetoric, right?
And then, and then maybe after those 4 years, now we got to run, whoever, Mike Pence maybe is going to be, Tucker Carlson is up there, but you're running against that after, everybody's going to be blaming Trump for whatever, because we will be in, no matter which one of these two win, like Richard Wolff points out, we're going to be in a class war. We're whether it's Biden or Trump, we're going to be the class war has already begun just by the number of, the amount of jobs they've thrown us out of, and the way that they're going to be having employed workers fighting against unemployed workers, and having them be upset with each other instead of joining forces together and recognizing who is oppressing all of them. Really, everybody's getting a raw deal, whether you're working right now or you're unemployed. The working people are saying, hey, look, I'm putting my life on the line, and they're damn right, and that's terrible. They're being called essential workers, and they're being shoved out there to risk their lives and be put on the front lines of a global pandemic. And then you have and they're mad that, well, these other people are sitting at home and they're getting $600 a week. And then you got the people that are unemployed that are thinking, well, I'd rather have a job, because maybe that would come with the stability that we associate with a job, even though it doesn't really exist. And I could have more long-term stability in mind and think that, okay, well, at least I still have my job, because people are all worried about what the hell do we do once the PUA, the pandemic unemployment assistance, and these temporary programs, once they run out, because we've already seen that Congress is willing to let necessary programs run out on people in the middle of a crisis. Imagine when the crisis is starting to die down a bit, but your life is still in a personal crisis. What are you going to do then? And so that's what we're up against. And so, yeah, I think that they have managed to get such a bad person on the other side with Trump that they can just say, oh, Trump's so bad, and we just have to get rid of Trump, and Trump's the whole problem. And so many people have focused in on that especially older voters, older Black voters in South Carolina, that had a real strong impact on this race, that were just afraid of or just so repulsed by Trump and his rhetoric that they are looking for what they're calling a return to normalcy, which is literally like blue MAGA. It's like blue Make America Great Again. It's the Democratic version of Make America Great Again. Return to normalcy. Returning to anything. Why would we ever want to go back to that normal? That normal is what led us into this moment. Why do we think that it won't lead us back there? That's that saying that gets falsely attributed to Einstein, but I think it's still a good saying, which is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We can't keep on doing the same thing, running these corporate Democrats and these neoliberals and putting these neoliberals in power and expecting something different from them. We're going to get more of the same. It's going to be more drone bombs and just more, forever wars, more, militarized police, more increased defense, military budget, more, police brutality and injustice, racial injustice, more environmental injustice against the indigenous people, more pipelines being built and fracking happening. They're going to frack under these people, frack them, damn it. These people are, they're ghouls, and they see their goal is to extract resources from the masses of people and exploit the masses of people. And that's exactly what they're saying. And whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump, we're going to get exploitation. We're going to get class war. We're going to get the wealthiest people putting working class people's lives on the line in order to keep their precious economy running, even at the risk of human life. And there's going to be a lot of avoidable deaths that won't be avoided, whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's Donald Trump. And it's just going to be a lot more of that same. And I can't get behind that. And for the reasons that George Carlin talked about there, where he's like, people got to twist around where they say oh, if you don't vote, you can't complain. If you don't vote for this person, you can't complain. And I think it's the opposite. If you vote for somebody, you are responsible. You are partially responsible for every action that person takes while they're in office. For everything that they do, you are partially responsible for that. I was partially responsible for Obama and all them damn drone bombs that he dropped on Black and brown people over in Asia, in Africa.
I'm responsible. I share in that responsibility. I get angry because I feel like he made me complicit in those acts, those evil acts. I feel responsible for him being the deporter in chief. I feel responsible for those kids he put in cages, that he locked in cages, and the families that he separated. I feel responsible for that. And so I don't want that feeling anymore. You know, there's a line from a Lupe Fiasco song. I think I can say the words. I'm not going to play the song, but I think I can say the words without the stream getting like dinged for a copyright infringement. But he says, you know, Limbaugh is a racist. Glenn Beck is a racist. Gaza Strip was getting bombed. Obama didn't say shit. That's why I ain't vote for him. Next one either. I'm a part of the problem. My problem is I'm peaceful and I believe in the people. And I just thought that was some of the realest shit. Like, you know, the fact, and I love Lupe. Lupe is my favorite rapper, favorite artist, really, musical artist. And if you don't listen to Lupe, you should. He's got just so many great albums. And I really love his recent one, Drogas Wave, which is talks about themes of like socialism and just, you know, the whole album is like themed based on the African slave trade and teaches a little bit about history, and then also just connects it to the current moment and you know, literally talking about literal socialism in it. And so in just some of a lot of the music that I listened to, I realized later on was like the type of music to radicalize a person, just like a lot of reggae and yeah, and so that Lupe line just sticks with me because it's just like I love that he was ahead of the time, and looking at that and seeing that and having that reaction of like, you know, Gaza Strip was getting bombed. Obama didn't say shit. That's why I ain't vote for him. Next one either, you know? And so like to say like, no, I'm not voting for you on this principle stance of like, you are okay with, you don't recognize Palestinian lives as, you know, valued human lives. And because of that, I'm not going to vote for somebody that I know is going to do things that I abhor. And so I believe that's a beautiful stance to take, and the one that I want to have the ability to look back in life and be proud of my vote and be proud of how I voted. And I will be proud of my vote when I'm so excited to not vote for Joe Biden. I've never been more excited to not vote for somebody, to vote against somebody, than I am to vote against Joe Biden in this upcoming election. And I will proudly stand on that principle and not feel a bit of guilt or blame or sadness or whatever happens. If Trump wins or if Biden wins, I truly don't give I don't think that there's enough of a gap there. And I'm more worried about Joe Biden winning and then his vice president winning in 2024, and us getting 12 years of neoliberalism instead of just 4 years of neoliberalism under Donald Trump, which is the policy that we would be getting. It would be neoliberalism under Donald Trump, a little bit neoconservative neoliberalism, same thing under Joe Biden. I mean, we're looking at no Medicare for all, no Green New Deal, you know, weak policy for climate change, no jobs guarantee, you know, cuts to Social Security, cuts to Medicaid, potential cuts to Medicare, even. Like, this is, I don't trust those ghouls. So yes, I love this. I see got Racist Media in the building. That's Racist Media, for folks that aren't aware, is a project that I'm working on. It's another left-wing podcast. It's focused on, I'm doing it with a couple of friends right now. It's mainly myself and longtime, one of my brother of mine, really, longtime comrade, Kwame Norville, and we talk about games, media, you know, popular culture, and, you know, news of the day stuff from a left-wing perspective. And so you can check out our channel, Racist Media, on YouTube. You can also you'll see some videos that
Kwame and I did for Racist Media that I uploaded on this channel. I'm probably gonna only be uploading the Racist Media videos to the Racist Media channel for moving forward. But I just did it because I had a little bit of an audience and wanted to help people know about Racist Media, raise some awareness about that as well. So if you're into that kind of thing and you like gaming and and pop culture, movies, that kind of thing, some movie reviews, game reviews, gaming, game streaming, and as well as just like talking about these things from a left-wing perspective. We did an episode where we talked about the Blizzard workers, rebelling and starting to share wage information publicly. And then also we did one segment on the Ammon Bundy, the conservative who came out in support of Black Lives Matter, and he had led that Bundy standoff against like federal agents when Obama was president. And they, so you can see a discussion with Kwame and I and Racist Media. If you check out those videos, the Ammon Bundy or the Blizzard workers video, I forget what else we discussed. Kwame, if you want to drop that in the chat, let me know what else we talked about in that video, other topics that we discussed. We talked about military e-recruiting, so military recruiting in the gaming industry, as well as AOC's legislation that she attempted to have passed, which would have banned the military from recruiting on Twitch. And so in using gaming platforms and using really shady tactics to trick young gamers into signing up for the military, essentially, and doing these really shady military recruiting practices through gaming and through game propaganda. And so we talked a little bit about that, and let me know if there were any other topics we covered there, Kwame, that I'm not thinking of. But shout out to Racist Media. If you can, give that a follow too, if that's the kind of stuff you're into, and interested in, more of this, but with a bit more of a bend and a lean towards the gaming industry and movies and pop culture. So if that's more of your thing, and Kwame's way funnier than me, by the way, I'm pretty, like, I can get pretty, I get a little riled up, and I can be I was gonna name this channel Angry Black Socialist at one point, but we did the Shahid Buttar video. So Kwame reminded me that we did a Shahid Buttar video. And yes, that was we did take on Shahid Buttar when those allegations first came out, and I really like our initial take. It's really held up over time, and I plan to do a follow-up with Kwame where we discuss that again. I'm going to bring Michael Brooks into the conversation because I have a great clip that I want to share from Michael Brooks where he talks about the difference between program and rhetoric. And I just want to show how that really applies directly to the Shahid Buttar situation. And there's been two candidates recently, Shahid Buttar and Alex Morse, who have had these sort of smear campaigns run against them as far as I'm concerned. And my reaction to both of those is to donate more money to them. So if you can afford it, go drop them a few dollars. If you can support Shahid Buttar, please do so. Drop them a few dollars, even at $5, $1 even, but $5, a few dollars, whatever you can. Drop Shahid Buttar, drop Alex Morse. He's running in Massachusetts 1st District, I believe, and Shahid Buttar in California 12th District, I believe, against Nancy Pelosi. I mean, huge race. It could be as monumental as it would be the most monumental. It would be bigger than the Cory Bush win even. If we took Pelosi out of office and removed the most powerful Democrat in Congress with a real, true progressive that fights for progressive values and has done so consistently for a long time, that's what we need to make happen. So please, if you can, support Shahid Buttar. Also, if you haven't done so already, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Hit that like button below. If you're watching it on mobile, you just got to close out the chat and then hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and then also hit the bell to receive notifications. I'm going to quickly check on the channel to see how our subs are doing, to see if we are we above 90? Okay, we're still at 92 subscribers. So still at 92 subscribers. I need more folks subscribing. So more folks sharing this out with new folks. Let folks know that we're doing this. Just share this out as much as you can and get this thing seen far and wide so that we can get some more subscribers in here. I see that we got 50 people watch the stream tonight, and I would love to pick up a couple of new subscribers here. So sometimes it takes a little while to update, to be honest, and it doesn't tell me right away when we get a new subscriber. So it's a little hard to do in real time. I apologize, but please subscribe, share the video, let folks know about it, and get folks to subscribe. All right, so let me take a look here. And Racist Media says, leftist analysis and themes run through all pop culture. All of our favorite heroes have been anti-fascist / imperialist. Yes, anti-fascist, anti-imperialist, exactly. So yeah, I think that these themes run through pop culture and media, and we love to chat about it, and also just kind of have a little fun and talk about these things and game. And we would love to do some like gaming with the community. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, check it out and join us for that. And we would love to make that happen. So yes, Racist Media said, let's get to 100. Yes. Let's do it. We're on the path to 100 here, and I know we can make this happen. So please do me a favor and subscribe. I've seen in the analytics for these videos that I have more hours of my videos are watched by people who are not subscribed than who are subscribed. So whoever you crazy folks are out there that are watching this right now and haven't subscribed, you need to stop whatever you're doing. You need to hit that button below, that big red button, to subscribe to this channel right now. Stop whatever you're doing and subscribe right now. Okay, right now, not later. Do it now. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for being here, to all my patrons, especially for supporting the way that you do. It really keeps this thing going and growing. And we've had a really good stream tonight. And so I really appreciate the engagement. Oh, thank you for the news. Nice. Mark McKeever, Ilhan Omar won her primary by over 17 points. I had a tab open somewhere with her, with the primary going and the results coming in. And so that is awesome. Maybe I can pull that up. But let me see if I can pull it up. That's awesome, though. That's beautiful. Let me see where I can get those results, probably from. All right, so they're calling it. Is it 100% of the vote in, though? So what I'm seeing is Ilhan Omar, like you said. I'm seeing her up right now by, like about 17 points. Yeah, about 18 points. She's up 18 points right now. It shows Ilhan Omar with 57.4% of the vote, 88,000 votes versus Anton Melton Moe, who got 60,477 votes. And she faced a well-financed challenge from Anton Melton Moe. Let me pull this up for y'all. Oh, no, that's not it. There we go. All right, so you can see here, Ilhan Omar. There we go. Yeah, so this is Minnesota's 5th congressional district, and we have Ilhan Omar winning resoundingly. I would say that's an 18-point win. That's a big win against a well-financed, candidate who was backed by, just an establishment-backed candidate. And so whenever you see that, this is promising. It's what we expected. It's just what we expected. The squad has come in and really held on to their seats resoundingly and shown that when left-wing, fighters get into Congress, get into these power centers, they can uphold their values for the most part, I would say, especially folks like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and AOC can uphold these left-wing, I know if my some of my international community were here with us right now, they would be getting on me, especially Ben 2K, about how what I refer to as left-wing is really centrist globally, and he's so right about that. And so I call it left-wing, but it's really American left-wing. It's really just centrism around the world. And so, but those ideas win. They're not just good policy, but they're good politics and they can win elections. And so you champion those ideas. And I mean, Ilhan Omar, they dumped so much freaking the difference between Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib's victory is that Ilhan Omar was her opponent raised a massive amount of money. Rashida Tlaib, her opponent only raised like $100,000 to Rashida Tlaib's like 2 million or something like that. Her opponent raised less than 200,000. So she outraised her opponent like 10 to 1. That was not the case for Ilhan Omar. She got a lot of grassroots support, but her opponent raised a ton of money. And that's a strong win right there. So really happy for that. That is great news for the left. So shout out to Ilhan Omar for just doing her thing and for being a strong voice on the left, particularly on matters of foreign policy. She is just great across the board. Really, I feel like there was one vote that she let me down on. If I remember off the top of my head, it was just in condemning the genocide in Armenia, the Armenian genocide, just recognizing it as a genocide. And she used it as a way to just like, she cast like a present vote, I believe, and not a no vote, but it just didn't, she could have made the same protest that she did while still at least acknowledging that. It was kind of like a whataboutism, like, well, what about, genocide and like the slavery, recognizing like slavery in the US and like reparations. Like, we don't want to recognize any of that shit because that means giving people substantive, material support, and they don't want to do that. But they'll do these things that are nominal, and to, write it down on a piece of paper, at least on paper, they're fine with saying, yes, these were atrocities, but they won't recognize their own atrocities, like America's original sin, which is the genocide they committed against indigenous people when they came over here and raped, pillaged, tortured, stole. And so, yeah, that was the legacy. And so, definitely just something that I agree with her sentiment there, but not with the strategy there. It's just not a good strategy, and it detracted from her stance, really, because I'm not concerned with her stance. Her stance was a good one outside of the strategy of not the present vote. But that's literally one nitpick that I have of Ilhan Omar. And aside from that, everything else that she's done on foreign policy has been tremendous, just especially around issues of BDS and, pro-Palestinian rights. Rashida Tlaib is a Palestinian American, and so she also has great stances on Palestine and fighting for Palestinian rights. And I love Ilhan Omar's courage in defending and fighting for working class people everywhere in the world, and not bowing to the pressure of the establishment, when the easy way to go is to do things like, say, just waging blind support to Israel as a congressperson, even though Israel is currently committing atrocities against the Palestinian people. And she recognizes that and speaks out. And I really love her voice on foreign policy. And honestly, she's the member of the squad that I've been most proud of and proud to support. And so, yes. Yeah, so that's amazing. That's really good news. Thank you so much to Mark McKeever for sharing that. One more time, I'll just throw it up there. But thank you to Mark McKeever for sharing that. That was some great news, and I really love that. Any other thoughts, comments, anything like that? I'm kind of getting a bit tired, not necessarily tired, a little hungry. And I think I want to wrap up this stream soon. We've been streaming for 3 hours already. And it's just on a single topic, so I don't like to keep these streams running too long. I'm gonna have to cut this stream up a little bit to release the full version, because this is too long for one topic, I feel like. Sorry for rambling, y'all. Please let me know if you have any other thoughts. Leave them in the comments right now. I'll read them out. Thank you so much to everyone that showed up today, commented, supported in any way. Thank you so much to our new patrons, Steve Alvarez and Kurt Golson. Just thank you so much. If anyone can afford it, please do me that favor of signing up for the the Patreon, you see the link, written out below here, patreon.com/radical democracy. If you check in the description box below, you'll see the link to the Patreon at the bottom of the description box. You can click that link and head over there, and just a few dollars a month. It goes so far and it means so much. And I'll try to add like a Venmo link for folks that want to do like one-off quick contributions. And I'll have that up, hopefully by next time, because we can't do super chats, unfortunately. So I can try that if that's something that folks would be supportive of. Please let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. And I will make that happen. So thank you so much to Steve for asking about the super chat. That was really cool. And I love the support and just really appreciate it. I can't thank you all enough for what you're doing here to support. And I promise, together we are going to grow this thing and turn it into something, something much bigger and hopefully community oriented, democratic to its core. And you'll be a part of that. And anything you can do to contribute will help to propel it a long way, because we're in just the early stages of this. And so right now the goal is just to get to 100 subscribers and $100 a month pledged on Patreon. So if you can help me with either of those, please share the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications. If it doesn't stress you out to receive a ton of notifications, you'll only receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video. And so I would really appreciate it if you hit that bell so that you can, join us when we go live and chat and have these discussions. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up. Thank you so much to Kwame. Shout out for being there. I really appreciate you dropping by. Appreciate that, brother. Shout out to Tammy, always my, lovely, lovely producer and, the brains behind the operation. So appreciate you, Tammy. Keep doing your thing. Keep being your amazing self. And to everyone else, all my patrons and everyone else that showed up and chatted and engaged in the stream, it really is. It makes it what it is. It makes it really enjoyable. And I just appreciate you so much. I really do, sincerely, genuinely, just love and appreciate you. So thank you so much. Please come back. Please join me again soon. And I think that will be it. I think that is radical. That is the end of the Radical Democracy podcast here for the night. Thank you so much to everyone. And do we have anything else here? Feel free, drop last comments, last thoughts in the chat before we go. Anyone going once, going twice? I have to wait like 10 seconds after I say something like that because of the latency and the lag on this, y'all. So this is just me waiting now to see if any comments come after I actually just said that. I'm not going to wait till I finish this rambling for all of y'all. It's already too late. All right. See, I love y'all. All right. I'm peacing out. All right. Love y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Like, subscribe, share, contribute to the Patreon. And I love you all. Thank you so much. See you again soon. All right. Peace.